Mr. Bernstein's excuse Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Holden, Mr. Ridley Thomas, Mr. Sabornich. Last one into rotten egg. Let's go. But they're not here yet, so we can keep talking. Okay. Got it. This is a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council on Tuesday, July 11, 2000. Council has 15 members, 10 of whom are here. We meet Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 o'clock or thereabouts. We are viewed on cable television, channel 35, also available by council phone. And we are going to start with the first order of business. Mr. Clerk?
Roll call. Bernson, Chick, Fuhrer, Glander, Goldberg, Hernandez, Holden, Vizkowski, Pacheco, Padilla, Ridley Thomas, Sorensen, Wax, Walters, Ferraro, 11 members present, and a quorum, Madam President.
Hold on. Okay. Mrs. Chick?
Madam President, I'd like to ask if we could move for a 5 to 7 minute hearing. There's a group of community activists and leaders and neighborhood groups who would come down today to make comments to us on something that's not on the agenda.
So what you're suggesting is we hold the public comment period now instead of later.
Exactly.
Is there
We
any
have some long
objection,
items.
council members, any objection to holding public comment now instead of later? All right. Do we have cards from this group?
Certainly let,
Ladies and gentlemen, if you
oh,
not ready yet?
I'm sorry, they didn't indicate that to me. They'd asked to do it now. They're not ready.
All right. Well, then we're going to go on with the
Obviously,
agenda.
thank you.
Thank you, though. All right. Next item.
Approval of the minutes.
Without objection, the minutes are approved.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
And without objection, those are approved.
On the regular agenda, item number 19, there's a request to continue that matter until July 25th at Council District 9 and the Housing Department's request. Item number 19.
All right. Is there any objection to continuing item 19? Seeing none, that's continued to July 25th.
Item number 18, a recommendation by the Housing Department and Council District 14 that this matter be received and filed. Number 18.
Any objection to receiving and filing number 18? Seeing none, unanimous vote. That's received and filed.
Item number 9 is commission appointment. Is the appointment of Robert Nizich to the Board of Rec and Parks Commissioners. There's a Arts, Health, and Humanities report that has been submitted. It is without recommendation.
Mr. Nizich, are you here? Come on up to the front table. Wherever you like.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sit tight.
We'll try.
Mrs. Walters, Mr. Savornich has asked to speak, and you're the committee chair, so push your thing and I'll call you first. She's the
Okay.
committee chair. Yes, Mrs. Walters.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This appointment came to Arts, Health, and Humanities yesterday without my having had an opportunity to meet with him. I believe he indicated he called my office Friday, which of course was too late to schedule an appointment before the committee meeting yesterday. But one of the things I asked him about, and he was, I must say, in his favor. He went to the right school. He answered the questions forthrightly. He didn't hedge on his responses, and I told him that I very much appreciated that and I respect him for it. The problem is this, council members. Up until now, the mayor has had a policy of asking people who are running for office to leave their commission seats. This gentleman is running for Mr. Savornich's seat, should Mr. Savornich go someplace else. Well, he says he's going anyway. That's right. Yeah. Right. So not when. It's not if, but when. This gentleman was on, he had been appointed to Cultural Affairs, served there what I consider a hot minute, a year, and is now being put on Recreation and Parks in the middle of a campaign for the city council. And I felt that the issues are such that we need people who are going to give it their full attention, who are going to be around a while. And so I did not feel comfortable recommending this appointment to council. Mr. Padilla did support it, and so that's why it's here without recommendation. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will be voting against it today
For the reasons that you articulated.
for the reasons stated. And the mayor's office has since notified me that they have no such policy, or they no longer have that policy.
Mr. Savornich.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity for being able to stand and ask for an aye vote for Mr. Nizich. For many years, there has not been a representative from the Greater Harbor area on the Board of Recreation and Parks Commissioners. And while we have tried for the past 7 years to achieve such an appointment, it is not until this appointment has come along that we've been able to do so. Mr. Nizich is well qualified, has given countless hours of his time trying to improve the lot of especially youth in the Greater Harbor area in the city of Los Angeles. Currently serves as the president of the board of directors of the San Pedro Boys and Girls Club, a job that he has just been absolutely fantastic at. I believe that his commitment to recreation and parks issues across the city would be very, very well received by the people of this city. I would ask for your aye vote. He is extremely well qualified, and regardless of whether or not he is running for office or not running for office, we have an opportunity here to put on the Board of Recreation and Parks Commissioners someone who truly believes in improving the quality of life in all neighborhoods as it relates to recreation and parks facilities, especially with the focus on children. And I can't emphasize that enough. So I would ask for your aye vote for this commission appointment.
Ms. Goldberg.
Well, I was actually going to ask the question that Mrs. Walters has already addressed, so I don't need to ask it.
All right. Mr. Nizich, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Mizikowski's next.
Thank you. I would just like to ask a question. I appreciate Ms. Walters' clarification that the mayor indicates he has no policy on serving on a commission and running for office. And I guess I'd like to ask Mr. Nizich, would it be your intent, if you were to seek office, to stay on the commission during the duration, or do you feel that there's an appropriate time where, if you accept the appointment, you might feel that the intensity of campaigning and or potentially the conflict? Members of the council, Rec and Parks, as we know, is going to be overseeing many potential grants through the state monies, Prop 12, building of programs, and the participation in that as a Rec and Parks commissioner and potentially running for office at the same time might lend itself to some potential conflict, or at least perception of conflict and appearance. So would it be your impression that were you to seek office, you could seek that office and stay on the commission during the duration, or that there would be an appropriate time when you would step down or not participate?
I do not perceive that the campaign would be a problem. So addressing the first issue, as far as me running for office, I'm told that in January you have to qualify for the ballot by getting enough signatures, so I don't want to be presumptuous enough to think that I'm going to do that even, but hoping that that's the case, I don't see that that's a problem. If you're asking whether, in your second question regarding a conflict of interest, of course I'm not going to have a conflict of interest, so should that arise, I would either have to abstain or recuse myself, or if that were a recurrent theme, then perhaps that would be the time. I don't perceive that at this time, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that you're not officially a candidate until you take out papers and turn them in, and you won't have the opportunity until sometime in January.
At least 6 months from now, correct.
I had one other question, which you may or may not know the answer to. You're currently on a commission and being moved from an existing appointment?
Actually, I resigned from that commission
You did.
for the appointment to this commission.
I see. So you wouldn't happen to know by any chance if there is a person waiting in the wings to take the slot you resigned from?
Yes, there is, I believe.
Okay, thank you. I mean, it's not your responsibility.
But
anyway.
I don't know who the person is, but I do
No,
believe there is one.
it's not your job to find the
Okay.
person either, so I just was curious. Thank you. All right, Mr. Savornich has moved approval. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
7 ayes, 4 noes.
That does not appear to have received 8 votes. So that'll carry,
The last day to act is August 11th,
so that just carries over
carries over.
until tomorrow's agenda.
Yes.
All right, so that's the story, it carries
Thank you.
over. You got 7 out of 8. All right, thank you. Next item.
Items number 1 through 8 on the regular agenda are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 6 and 7 are ordinances. Did you wish to hold those on the desk?
I'm afraid we're going to have to, since we have only 11 members. Are we expecting anybody else?
You are expecting 13.
Thank you. I know. All right, we have a card on item 8. If there has already, all right, Mr. Holden's here, so let's do items 1 through 7. And now, and then, well, on item 8, we've already had a hearing. We do have a card is included in your, it is subject to. All right, in that case, let's do items 1 through 7. Council members, any specials, items 1 through 7? Seeing none, open the roll on items 1 through 7. Close the roll, tabulate the vote. Nothing's happening. There we
12
go.
ayes.
Okay, those are approved.
Madam President, items number 1 through 5, the hearings and ordinances will be continued to August 1st.
That's correct. Those are where we open the hearings and they stay open. 6 and 7, however, are done, right?
That's correct. 6 and
Okay.
7 are adopted.
And item 8, we have a card, so we're going to hold that. Let's just go through the agenda and see where we are here.
Okay. Items number 10 through 14 and 25
We
are
skipped
items...
9. Or did we just do 9? Yeah. Can we, ladies and gentlemen, can you move over? You're interrupting the recording here. Just move toward the corner and it'll work fine. Go ahead.
Items number 10 through 14...
Wait,
and-
happened to 9.
Item number 9 was acted on, that was the commission
All
appointment.
right, there we go. Okay.
Okay,
Item
so
10
through 14 and 25 are items for which public hearings have been held.
All right, now
10
we-
and 25 should be considered together.
Yes, and we have cards on 10, 12. I don't think we have any on 25. So let's do 11, and what were you telling me about 13? I know that, but we have 11, 13, and 14 that nobody's turned in any cards for. 11 special, all right. Any other specials?
10 through 14.
10 through 14.
And 25.
Yes, 10 and 25 have to be are related, and we have a number of cards on some of those. All right, 12 is, we have cards. We're going to call that special. So we're not up to that yet.
So that leaves items number
10, 12, and we're going to call 25 special because it needs to go with 25. So,
that leaves items number 13 and 14.
okay. And those, we've had a hearing, yes?
That is correct.
All right, members of the council, any specials, any comments on 13 and 14? Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
Those are approved. Okay, next.
Items number 15 through 24 are, with the exception of 18 and 19. A motion is required on item number 21.
All right, and Mr. Wax, you called item 21 special? Did you want to call 21 special?
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's already
Yes,
called.
yes, okay. And item 20, we have a card, 23, sorry? 20, 23? 23 special. Okay, so we have 20, 21, and 23 called special, and 18 and 19 have already been disposed of. Anybody else? Open the roll on the balance. 15 through 24? I lost it.
That'd be 15, 16, 17, 22, and 24.
Okay, everybody ready? Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 eyes.
Those are approved. Your folks are here? All right, we're going to
Thank you for your
recognize Mrs.
patience.
Jack
Thank you
again.
for your
Go ahead.
patience. The community group that had asked to speak has arrived, and so they need to get up to the microphone very quickly because now's the time.
Oh, okay. Thank you. You know, Laura, if you don't mind, we have one presentation, which I somehow overlooked here. Would we do that first? Mr. Padilla, you ready to do your presentation? What we're going to do when he's finished, ladies and gentlemen, is anybody who wants to be heard on an item not on today's agenda, we're going to have a 10-minute, let me just explain this, Alex, and then go ahead. We're going to have a 10-minute hearing for all of those who wish to address the council on items not on today's agenda. And we do need you to fill out cards. I have only 2 cards in my hand, but I know there are more coming. Here they come. Okay, Mr. Padilla for a presentation.
Thank you, Madam President and colleagues. It seems that almost every year there's one of us up here making the following presentation. There's an annual event in Washington, D.C., sponsored by the National Association of Police Organizations, awarding what they call the Top Cop Awards. And I guess within the industry, it's affectionately known as the Oscars for policemen and women. Well, this year, once again, we have a few of our own Los Angeles Police Department members being awarded by this national top honor. There's over 350 nominations that were made this year. And from those, they were narrowed down to 10 award recipients and I believe about 30 runner-ups or honorary awards. We have 3 officers from the Los Angeles Police Department being awarded this year, and I'm joined by them today. They are Officers Cynthia French and Romik Kashishi, as well as Sergeant Joan Luke. And they'll be traveling to Washington early next month to receive their national award, which really goes to men and women who don't just perform their job as we expect of them, but really for officers who rise above and beyond the call of duty in some of the most dire circumstances. Specifically, these officers rose to the occasion New Year's Eve of 1998, when the 3 of them were responding to a call involving a man who was armed with a rifle and firing very erratically. When the officers arrived on the scene, the criminal was found to be armed with 3 assault rifles, a semi-automatic pistol, and about 100 rounds of ammunition. Officer French confronted the suspect first and attempted to take him into custody. And it took, I understand, 5 gunfights to finally subdue the criminal. In the process, Officer French was critically wounded. Luckily, she had on her vest, although that still allowed for her to be wounded in other parts of the chest. Officer Cynthia French is a 17-year veteran of the Los Angeles Police Department and has served in the North Hollywood area for 15 of those years. Sergeant Luke is also a 17-year veteran of the police department, and Officer Kashishi is a 2-year member, so was very new to the force at the time of the incident and was a probationary officer at the time. In addition to the Top Cop Award being awarded in Washington, they will also be receiving LAPD's own Medal of Valor. I felt it was very appropriate to bring them forward today for formal recognition by this council and to ask them to also say a few words.
Just wanted to thank you for the recognition, and we hope to represent the LAPD at Washington. And it's a great honor to receive this from our fellow officers and from you people. Thank you.
Thank you for the work. We have a number, don't leave yet, we have several council members who want to be heard before the rest of you get to talk. Ms. Goldberg? Ms. Goldberg, did you want to be heard?
No?
Oh, okay. Mrs. Walter, I have this list of names up here. Okay, Mr. Fewer does, though, I can see.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to speak for a moment. Officer French won't remember this, but I remember going to her hospital room after she had been so severely injured. And I can just, without in any manner denigrating the performance and the achievements of the other officers who are standing before us today, I want to say, you talk about somebody who really displays, and certainly then displayed, enormous courage. Officer French could either have been standing with us today or not standing at all. And Officer French, through sheer perseverance and enormous guts, is with us to represent us so well every day. And I just want to say, I remembered seeing you and thinking, this is somebody who, if this person survives, it's only because of a sheer act of will. And here you are before us. It is a marvelous thing to see you here. Congratulations, and thank you, Mr. Padilla, for bringing these brave officers forward.
Thank you. Would you want to respond?
I think it was more than just an act of will. I think it was the prayers of the community that really assisted me, and I appreciate it. And I like to take this moment to say thank you, because I don't think I have said thank you to the city and for all the prayers that came in at that time. Thank you.
And incidentally, let's thank the doctors as well.
Thank you, colleagues,
And
Madam
the nurses.
President. It really has been an honor to recognize not just the finest of LA's finest, but the finest of the country's finest. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. All right. We're now going to go into our 10 minutes of... It is nice to feel appreciated, isn't it? We're going to go into our 10-minute public hearing as soon as I find my list of cards. I do want you each to know before you start that 7 people have asked to speak, not all from the same group. So keeping in mind that we have a total of 10 minutes, I'm just going to call you in order. Teresa Sanchez, followed by Deborah Kroll, Kyung Moon, and then I'll call the rest of them. Go ahead.
Hi, there will only be 4 speakers.
Okay, and pull the mic up close to your mouth or we won't hear you. There you go.
Alrighty.
Okay, here we go.
Hi, I'm here with the Communities United for Real Empowerment, CURE.
Are you Teresa?
No, I'm
Oh,
Deborah Kroll.
Okay, I just want to keep track of what I got here. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm a teacher with Los Angeles Unified School District, and I'm here representing the Metropolitan Alliance in West Los Angeles. I'm also a member of the Commonwealth Avenue Neighborhood Association in Venice. I attended a DUN meeting or Department of Neighborhood Empowerment at Loyola Marymount University, and I found the experience to be quite frustrating. I was hoping to see the birth of participatory democracy. Instead, I was asked to write my comments on a post-it about this size without being given information about how neighborhood councils have worked successfully in other areas of the country. I looked around the room at Loyola Marymount, and I didn't see a representation of lots of different socioeconomic groups. I'm worried that only well-established neighborhood associations are being invited into the process. As a teacher for Los Angeles Unified, I have a lot of experience of how to get people to meetings. It's no mystery. You provide childcare, you provide translation into other languages, and you provide transportation when it's necessary. Dunn needs the resources to provide these services, and the duty of the City Council to provide the resources to Dunn. The Cure has submitted a letter to the City Council regarding this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, who's up next, since the cards are no longer in order?
굿모닝. 저는 로스앤젤레스 노인 아파트에 6년째 거주하고 있는 문경덕이라고 합니다. 새로이 개정된 시 헌장에 의하여 건설될 주민위원회는 우리 커뮤니티가 로스앤젤레스 정치에 참가할 수 있는 좋은 기회를 제공할 수 있다는 기대와는 다르게 진행되고 있습니다. 저희 이민자 커뮤니티에서는 주민위원회에 관련된 행보가 특정 단체들을 중심으로만 진행되어 주민위원회의 실체에 대한 이해가 매우 부족한 상태입니다. 특히 다안에서 추진한 코리아타운 인근의 공청회는 언론을 통한 홍보에만 의존하고 주민들을 직접 접촉하려는 노력이 부족한 결과로 일반 주민들의 참여가 매우 저조하였습니다. 이를 개선하기 위하여 우선적으로 주민위원회에 대한 적극적인 홍보와 교육 활동이 이민자 커뮤니티 내에서 진행되어야 합니다. 미국의 정치제도에 대한 이해가 부족한 이민자 커뮤니티에 주민위원회에 대한 충분히 인식할 기회를 주지 않은 상태에서 의견 수렴이란 있을 수 없으며 결과적으로 그들을 더욱더 시정부터 소외시키게 됩니다. Thank you.
My name is Imdo Sim. I'm going to translate BF of Mr. Kyung Moon. My name is Kyung Moon. I have been living in the city for 6 years. When the city charter passed, Korean American hoped that the neighborhood council would give a voice in the city government, but the process has been failed. Dunn has failed to outreach many communities in Los Angeles, including limited English-speaking and recent immigrants. Many of our residents did not even know that Dunn was having a public meetings, and at their meetings, interpretation has been unreliable. We believe Dunn has to become a more inclusive by reaching out all members of the community, and has to help make the information and process accessible. City Council must begin to push Dunn to change its ways. Thank you.
Thank you. They're going to be you and one more person, is that right?
Yes.
And then I'm going to ask you to leave a little time. There's some people not from your group who also want to be heard.
Okay,
Go ahead.
thank
And you are?
Good morning. I'm Aretha Inslee.
Okay.
I am a member of Agenda, a grassroots organization. I'm a community activist. I'm a block club member and officer. I'm a retired teacher, and I'm one of the first officers of the 8th Council District Empowerment Congress. And I was really upset to find out that a meeting in my area had been held, and I knew nothing about it. And this happened 2 weeks later, and I was very, very upset, and I wanted to know what the meeting was about. And again, they told me they wrote on some memo, Post-it notes, something. I was very, very upset. I would like to know what outreach strategy was used to notify citizens. My concern, and I speak for many of my neighbors and friends, is that we have been left out of the mix again, overlooked and left out of a key process that greatly impacts South Los Angeles. What was the outreach strategy for notifying the 9th Council District, or Watts, or the 10th Council District? There is a model for neighborhood councils in the city. There is no need for us to start from ground zero. There must be a system, a process to get information out to everyone. The Empowerment Congress sends notices out to all the individuals and follow up with phone reminders. Media can be used, public service announcements, radio stations, newspapers. We want to be involved. We want to give input. We must participate in such an important process before it becomes, excuse my, the pun, a done deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Selene Havleshak y quiero reconocer que fue un gran error el miren que tuvimos, la organización que tuvieron ellos. En el momento de que no supieron organizar.
I want to introduce myself. My name is Selena Havlicek, and I'm talking about the meeting that happened in my neighborhood, which I think was a big error and was not well organized.
Líder de Hollywood por 15, 16 años, que he trabajado puerta por puerta. Eso no quiere decir nada. Lo que importa es que en ese miren que fuimos discriminados. Dijeron, a un lado los que hablan español, a otro lado los que hablan inglés. ¿Por qué esa discriminación?
I've been active in Hollywood for the last 15 years doing door-to-door organizing, and that's not the important thing. I was at one of the Dunn meetings, and I felt discriminated against. Spanish-speaking folks were told to go to one part of the room, English-speaking folks were told to go to the other part of the room, and I felt that was discrimination.
Cuando es una buena organización, ahí es donde se debe de ver todas las lenguas, todas las razas. No importa cuál sea la raza, cuál sea el color, cuál sea el idioma.
When something's well organized, all the languages and all the races need to be represented no matter where they come from.
Y lo más triste fue que no había un reconocimiento para verdaderamente lo que es la comunidad, los que han trabajado verdaderamente en el fondo, en el corazón de la comunidad. Era una organización exclusiva para una organización que la cual ni sabíamos quiénes eran los líderes, quiénes eran los que hablaban allí.
And the saddest thing about it was that there was no recognition of longtime community activists and community leaders who really represent the base and the heart of the community. It felt like an exclusive organization, and it wasn't clear who they were representing.
Cuando se habla de una organización, se tiene que tomar en cuenta a la gente, a la verdadera gente que está abajo, a las que están trabajando día por día, tarde por tarde, noche por noche. Esos son los que deben de tomar en cuenta, no un grupo que está arriba.
So the most important thing is to take into account the people who are really the heart of the community, workers, people who are working every day and every night, and not just folks from above.
Gracias.
Thank you.
All right, let's take note that we have a very large group of people who designated a few speakers, and thank you. We do have two more people who are not part of this group who want to be heard on public comment. So I'm going to call Sunil Jayasingh. Well, this is a non-agenda public comment.
Record of the people who didn't speak but who were here.
Oh, good point.
So that
If
they
you
can
would-
become a part of the record. That's all I'm trying to do.
That's a good idea. If you would like to give us a list of who you all are, we'll make sure that
That
we have a
becomes a part of
record
the
that you're
record.
here. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Jayant Singh and then Mr. Richard Robinson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam. I'm going to talk to you all about some of the terrorist activities which are being propagated here in Los Angeles. U.S. Department of State Human Rights reported that the LTT organizations in Sri Lanka demonstrates the capacity for unmatched savagery and brutality. The LTT uses conscripted child soldiers, suicide bombers to assassinate political leaders and even their leaders of their own country. How is it possible for this to happen in a democratic world, in a country, home for many Americans, with all the democratic and legislative establishments in place? The UN has put in place the appropriate instruments to combat terrorism. It is the participating members of the United Nations who has failed to uphold the ratified resolutions of the General Assembly. Supporters of the terrorist group make their living in hospitable, generous, tolerant democratic societies like Los Angeles and many of the Western countries. On October 8, 1999, Secretary of State Madeleine K. Albright stated, the organizations support Tamil separatism by lobbying foreign governments and the United Nations are in the United States. Also uses its international contacts to procure weapons, communications, and bomb-making equipment, exploit large Tamil communities in North America, Europe, and Asia to obtain funds and supplies for fighters in Sri Lanka, and some Tamil communities in Europe, and also involved in narcotics smuggling. Albright mentioned the illegality to provide funds or other material support by any persons in the USA to a terrorist organization. Members of a terrorist organization, if aliens, can be denied visas or excluded from the United States. U.S. financial institutions must block funds of designated terrorist organizations and their agents and report to the Office of the Foreign Assets Control, Department of the Treasury. With all these instruments in place, the great democracies have yet to adhere to the purpose and principles set forth in the Charter of the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and to respect the commitment of the President of the United States and the Secretary of State, Madeleine K. Albright, to take steps towards eradicating terrorism. There are LTT sympathizers in the city of Los Angeles who are collecting and contributing for the terrorists in Sri Lanka, and also effect indirect support to other terrorist organizations in the world. There are well-known
Mr.
Tamil...
Singh, excuse me, but I do have to ask you to summarize and wrap up because I have one more speaker and we're running
Okay, I'm
out
going
of
to the
time.
last paragraph
Go
now.
ahead.
Yeah. All democratic-loving people should unite to fight terrorism, not only at the federal or state level, but also at the community level, by demonstrative means that will send a message to the terrorists of the world that the birth of the Warsaw Declaration will see the death of terrorism. I urge all of you to take precedence in fighting terrorism within every corner of this beautiful state by informing the relevant law enforcing agencies, financial institutions, humanitarian organizations of overseas money transfers to terrorist organizations, and to be aware of illegal fundraising activities that are taking place constantly during weekends, and to take appropriate action to apply the law to its fullest extent. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Singh.
We're basically out of time, but since you had
Madam
already
President,
signed
members
up,
of council, for centuries the Bible has been misinterpreted to enslave black America and to keep us in second-class citizenship. This book, Genesis 9:25, pardon me, I should have turned to this, very clearly indicates that one of the most heinous misinterpretations, Ham's being cursed, is a lie, the misinterpretation. The Bible sets the lie correct, i.e., the Bible denounces the lie. In Genesis 9:25, it says very clearly that Canaan, Ham's son, Ham being the father of the four races,
Mr.
is
Robinson.
cursed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark, you're not going to have...
All right, that closes the public comment period, and we will now return to the agenda. Where are we?
Item number 8 was called special. A member of the public wishes to speak on this matter.
Item number 8. Mr. Jack Briggs, I believe, is what it says here. Mr. Briggs? Or if I've mispronounced your name, because I can't read it.
No.
There you are.
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning.
Pull the mic up to, or you'll hurt your back. There you
Thank
are.
you. Thank you, Madam President. Jack Briggs from Westcon Engineering. I'm representing the petitioner, the Shamblers, for the vacation of 7th place. We've been working on this for over 2 years and have completed all the requirements for the redesignation, except for the redesignation of the street type, which is being held up by the Central City Plan. And we have just become aware of the new conditions being requested by Councilperson Pacheco's office yesterday. We have received agreement from the client to all of the additional conditions except for one, and they have agreed to landscape, repave, install security fencing, and install double-pane windows in the adjacent school property. They are opposed, however, to the condition that would require them to stage trucks during, or to not stage trucks during school hours, and we would like to have that condition removed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That closes the public hearing, and where is Mr. Pacheco? Mr. Pacheco? All right, well, Mr. Padilla wishes to be heard. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. On Councilmember Pacheco's behalf, I'd like to move Amendment 8A.
Yes, 8A is the agreement the gentleman was addressing, and his concern was they were agreeable with 5 of the 6 conditions. I thought if Mr. Pacheco is available, we ought to give him an opportunity to respond to that. Okay, hold on, he's coming, but thank you for trying. Mr. Pacheco, the gentleman representing the property owner stated that he had just seen all the conditions. They were agreeable to all of them, except they were concerned about item number 1, no staging of trucks during school hours within the street portion proposed to be vacated. And I didn't want us to vote without your having a chance to comment.
Let's hold it on the table. I can discuss it with them, discuss it with my
All
staff.
right,
and we'll
let's
come
do
back
that.
to it.
We'll hold item 8 as amended by 8A on the desk and move on to the next item.
Item number 10 and 25 are called special by Councilmember Wax.
All right, now we have on items 10 and, I don't have any cards on 25. We have 1 card on item 10, general comments. Mr. Wax, you called these special. Do you want to hear from the...
Yes, I'm happy to hear, and I'd like if the staff and also someone from the mayor's office is here, because we had asked some questions in committee that we'd hoped we would have answers by today. So, but I'd have the public hearing first. Yes.
Let's hear from Scott Schmidt first, if you're here. And
That's exactly what Rita said. Must be a teacher. He said the same thing.
Right.
Perfect.
go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Scott Schmidt. I represent the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. I'm here to speak on item 10, but also on item 25 and also
Yes,
related
please
to item
speak on both of them,
23.
because we're going to be considering, we'll vote separately, but we'll be considering them together.
Okay. This is also related to item 23. I want to thank Councilmember Chick and Councilmember Fuhrer for introducing it. Bond accountability has become one of VICA's top priorities in recent years, and we want to encourage the city to do whatever they can to move this forward. VICA is working with Senator Alarcon to introduce state law that will create local standards for bond accountability for all local agencies. This would require cities, counties, special districts to do 4 simple things. First of all, you need to state the specific purposes of a bond or a special tax. You have to follow the specific purposes. Thirdly, you have to set up a special fund to put the money into so it's not fungible. And finally, regular reporting on fiscal matters and performance along the way. Item 23 accomplishes this for the city for future bond measures. We'd hope that this would also be included in these bond measures as well, because it would make it a lot easier for VICA to support it in the future if we have bond accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes the public hearing, and Mr. Wax, you're up first. Or we wanted to hear a staff report?
Well, the 2 questions that I asked in committee, I obviously very much support and recognize the need for both of these facilities, for both animal services as well as fire services. The questions that I had raised in committee, however, were the management costs and the mayor's position. I was very concerned that the overall costs for management not be excessive, in light particularly of the Belmont incident, where they found that the project management costs were running about 19%, which was far, far greater than the industry standard, and resulted in a tremendous amount of waste. And I was asked Mr. Troyan to break down what our costs were to see if we had a much more favorable set of numbers, because I want these facilities, but I want people to get the most for their money, and I don't want to see a lot of money wasted on unnecessary oversight costs. And the second was the position of the mayor's office, because I feel very strongly, and particularly with the new charter, that I want
the mayor's assurance as well that they have gone through these numbers and that they feel that these are solid numbers and that we are in fact getting a very efficient, productive use of the dollars. And so there was no one at the committee from the mayor's office to give a position, so I'd asked if they would be here at this. I want these facilities. I think the need is great. I just want to make sure that people get the most for their dollar. And that is something that, without that assurance, they'll never pass this, and so it's in everyone's interest that we get that. So perhaps if Mr. Troyan and someone from the mayor's office could be here to answer those two questions, that's really what I wanted to know. There's no question about the need. The question is about that the money is going to be well spent and that they have the assurance that it will be.
Would you want to, Mr. Troyan, you want to come up and let's also, while we're at it, take note of item 23 on today's agenda, which is clearly related to these and will be the item we take up next. Go ahead.
Madam President.
No, as soon as we finish with these two. Go ahead.
Madam President and members of the council, I wholeheartedly support the previous speaker and the comments he made about the need for accountability, that bond issues should specify what projects will be built, that there is a monthly reporting mechanism on how projects should be built, and that there should be an oversight committee to make sure that what the public was promised is what we deliver them. In fact, we have started this process with the library program, which is now proceeding successfully enough so that out of the 32 projects, half of them are ahead of schedule and half are on schedule. And on a monthly basis, we produce this report, which lists the original scope of work, lists the original schedule, lists the original budget, and provides a monthly report to the Oversight Committee as to how those funds are being spent. We fully intend to implement these same procedures for any future bond issues that are passed. And as I said, we support the proposal of the previous speaker.
And you'll also notice, you too should take note of item 23 on today's agenda, which would require this.
Yes,
Okay,
I did.
thank you.
Councilwoman, we should also note that sustainability is included in both.
How did you know I was going to ask? Thank you. Mr. Wax, were you done? You have some more time left here.
Well, I'm waiting. Perhaps I'll press my button again because I think Ms. Roth is coming down from the mayor's office, and we can continue that discussion.
There's mayor's office people all over the room.
Well, I
Somebody
think
answer?
she's the one that was doing the analysis, and so
right.
let me push
Okay.
my button
All
down
right.
again
Let's do
after
that.
others speak.
Okay, Ms. Mizikowski.
Thank you, Madam President. I think it might be useful also to have the fire department and Mr. Knapp, perhaps, from the Animal Services come forward, because that's really what we're talking about here. And it might be appropriate for the council to hear what the range of the proposals are, as we have discussed both in Public Safety Committee and in Budget and Finance Committee. Members of the council, I think we're all aware of the need, particularly, let me start first with Animal Services. We have spent a lot of time and a lot of effort, both in our budget efforts and in the council as a whole, talking about the dire straits that Animal Services is in. We have helped recognize that by getting equipment funded through our MICLA programs, increasing the hiring, but we basically know that our kennels, our animal service operations are overcrowded. As a consequence, that leads to further public health issues, both for the human public as well as for the animal public, and it needs to be serviced. There were a number of proposals done by a private consultant group and a number of range of options, and I'm pleased to say that there was consensus in the committees that worked, as well as Ms. Walters, who wasn't present, but had asked that we really focus on the need in animal services and for the $154 million proposal, really build the number of facilities that are necessary, upgrade the others. And I would like to ask, there has been some ongoing concern, and the council initially directed Animal Services to look, and General Services as well, to look at the 77th, the old former 77th police station. And there has been some concern that were that temporarily used, or were that now, as the bond looks at, pulling that in to be permanently improved, how that would reimburse the police department for the old 77th Street station consistent with the earlier bond. Can we have someone address that, please? Mr. Mercer?
Ask Bill Mercer with the Office of Administrative and Research Services.
The old 77th was purchased with police bonds. The proposal is that we use that property to put the new temporary animal services facility there. As long as the police bonds is reimbursed, there's no problem with that. And I don't know if your question goes beyond that, ma'am.
No, I think that's what we wanted to have on the record, that if 77th is going to be used by proceeds from this bond, it must reimburse the police department. I would also like to have the fire department address the issue of the neighborhood fire stations, which is what this bond is on the public safety side relative to the fire facilities, in terms of the age of the existing stations, what is going to be produced, as well as the overall improvement to the air operations divisions. That's air operations support for the helicopters that do transport in emergency situations that are vital, as we know, during our brush season and brush clearance, to be able to get in there with those drops as quickly as possible, and the need to provide as best and overall a facility improvement there as possible. So if the fire department could address those issues about what and how the selection was made for these fire stations.
Certainly, Councilman Mizikowski, the bond proposal addresses response times in its overall scheme for the city from the fire service. What you have before you is 19 fire stations, of which the first portion of it are regional fire stations, and then the helicopter facility out at Van Nuys Airport. The helicopter facility right now is in a temporary structure that enable us to move away from what was a co-located facility in the General Services Maintenance Building. The bond proposal proposes that the maintenance building is also rebuilt along with on a particular site that we've identified with the airport's a 20-acre site. We're working on negotiating that lease on that land with the airports as we speak. The facility there will enable us to relocate the crash unit that's at Fire Station 90 so that the whole airport operation will be in one facility, enable us to operate in a much more safer manner than we have in the past. Within the General Service Fleet Maintenance Building for the helicopters, they provide the service for both the fire and police and for the water and power helicopters. Right now, most of the vehicles or the ships that are there to be repaired have to wait outside in the weather. There's equipment that's stored outside. It's very overcrowded. The landing site for the ships to come in is overcrowded. And the 20-acre site will enable us to have a much more safer operation. Plus, the way it is right now, or has been up until a few months ago, the helicopters could not take off out of that site loaded with water because of the angle that they would have to take off. Today we're able to do that. We're able to respond to the brush fires and the other significant instance when the city loaded down with either water or a full crew, both with the ambulance personnel or the Helitac people. The fire station concept that we have with the regional fire stations is really not a new concept. We have a few fire stations throughout the city that have training towers and training facilities, but they just are very small sites. The training facility just doesn't meet the needs of our service today. Plus, we found that the apparatus and personnel would have to travel quite a long distance to get to them and take them out of their districts in doing that. This enables us to be a little more focused within their district, or at least close to their district, so if an incident should occur, our response time would not be that far away. Normally we would move up companies all over the city to cover for our training that we do today, and it really thins us out on a regular basis almost every day of the week. This enables us to stay close to our districts and provide for the services within the assigned areas. The last half of the stations that are listed on the bond proposal are those stations that we've just outgrown significantly. They're single-base stations. They have a single engine and maybe a rescue in them. If the vehicle that's behind the front one gets called an incident, the front one has to pull out and get out of the way, and vice versa when they come back into the station. We have equipment stored all over the apparatus floor. It's just a real poor arrangements for us today. The vehicles have grown significantly since those stations were built back in the late 30s and early 40s. We didn't do an ambulance service at that time. We weren't involved in that, and since the service has changed significantly, these buildings just don't meet the needs of our fire service today.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Chick.
Yes, I would like to ask that our final decision on this be delayed at least until tomorrow, and I would prefer until Friday, and I'm looking to my colleagues, Chair of Budget and Finance and Public Safety, to ask if that's a problem until Friday. For instance, I would like to see some kind of map showing the geographical locations of the proposed projects, just to, to better understand what the details of the proposal are. I rise very much supportive of the fact that we have a very serious gaping need, that I have long been a voice for saying if we have a public safety plan in the city, it cannot be one that only looks at the LAPD, but must look at the fire department and animal services and building and safety as well. But in this case, in terms of facilities, these two departments, there's no arguing the need. My focus is more on doing this in a way that not only meets an important need and therefore serves the people we all serve, but is done in the most responsible and accountable way, and is done in a way that while we are building these facilities, we are also rebuilding the trust and confidence of the people whose vote we need when we ask for bond measures to be passed. And so I want to be reassured, and that can happen today, that on both the animal services bond and on the fire department bond, what we have before us is what can be delivered, completed in 5 years. Or if it's not a 5-year plan, let's not call it a 5-year plan, then it's a 7-year plan. I know we're not putting everything on there that we need, and I think that's the right way to go, but I'd like to hear more about the timeline. And then also, in terms of land acquisition and sites, have we done at least some of the preliminary work on that, as we know where we're putting these things? And then finally, in terms of staffing, there's this whole issue of the fire department having trouble filling its positions, and but I assume that these stations are needed by existing staff, not even about projecting staff. So I think I've just answered my own question on that. But on the other questions, and then to have that information on location, I think is very, very key. And finally, when we get to number 23, I want those measures to apply to these bonds, which includes the detailed listing of projects that are going to be built, as well as the oversight committee, which I think is already recommended here.
Thank you.
If I could have someone answer my question.
Well, you've just used all your time, so how much do you need answered here? You wanted a timeline.
Well, I want to know about the 5-year.
Yeah, well, that...
As far as the period of the program, we believe that the projects will start being completed after 4 years, and the whole program will take 7.
7.
Yes, because the land acquisition could take a couple years in a couple cases. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Savornich.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the council. As the author of a motion back on the 17th of November in 1998, seconded by Mr. Wax and verbally amended on this council floor on the 29th of October 1999, addressing these issues, one of the things that we had asked at that time that, and perhaps if I could have the CAO come to the center table also, representing the CAO, terrific. In regards to the issue, one of the things that we had asked back then was that by June 1st of each year, the city departments that were going to be making proposals for the bonds in regards to citizen oversight committees make the information available to them, so that by the August 1st of every year, that the citizen oversight committees could report to the city council on the bonds. And so for the bonds that we passed recently, has the city departments provided the information to the bond oversight committees that should be in place on the other bond measures that we passed, in order that by council motion, they can report to this council by August 1st on the status and the progress of those bonds? That's the first question. The second question is that how does what we're doing today differ from the action that was initiated on November 17th of 1998 and passed by this council on the 29th of October, 1999, in regards to this issue, because I applaud Councilman Chick and Mr. Fuhr and Mr. Wax, the former chair of the committee, for working on this issue with our office, but I'd like to know what we're doing different today than what we have done, just to ensure that we're actually keeping a close eye on the money and that the taxpayers are getting their dollars worth in regards to the bonds that they vote on and subsequently possibly pass or not pass. So that's my two questions.
Bill Mercer with Oars again.
Can't hear you.
Bill Mercer with Oars again.
Our new name.
As concerns your first question, the VNOCs are in place. They are doing their work. I do not know how the timetable has worked as far as getting information back and forth. We'll have to look into that and get back to you when this is considered Friday or earlier. As far as your second question, we have in place for the library program an oversight committee. There's an oversight committee in place for the zoo program, a somewhat similar oversight committee for the Prop K LA for Kids program, all with VNOCs for various projects.
So what I would be interested in hearing back to this council is whether or not, pursuant to the council instruction, the information was provided to those oversight committees on June 1st, so indeed we could have a report by August 1st as dictated by council in regards to those three. Because if the council has already mandated that this is the process that we should be undertaking in regards to asking the voters to approve new bonds, then I would want, prior to our consideration of voting to place additional bonds before the voters, that we have embraced the policy that would be the policy for future bonds, that the ones that we already embraced is happening.
Whether or not the timetable has been met is the only question I have. Everything is in place. Now I'll have to get back to you on the timetable. As far as the new program.
Well, one of the things that I am going to have to hear, and I'm sure there's quite a few of my colleagues that would want to hear it also, that if the council has mandated a time schedule, then that's a time schedule that needs to be adhered to. Yes. Because if you didn't adhere to the time schedule for the last three bond measures, what gives us any reinsurance, especially to the taxpayers who are paying them, including we council members,
We're about to get on the council timetable here.
that it will happen. So I'll want to hear that. And also, what's the difference, what we did before and what we're doing now?
I believe it's very similar.
Well, wait, hold on. Wait. We have several more people who want to be heard, and I know you want to talk on item 23, and I think you should. Well, no, he's asking about a motion that was approved by the council 2 years ago that he had brought in, which I believe you're suggesting is rather similar to... All right, so let me call on the next people, and you can all push your buttons again. We're going to keep doing this till we've discussed it as much as we need to. Mr. Pacheco.
Madam President, colleagues, I just had a few questions and a few suggestions, and as we move this along, first of all, I wanted to ask if under the new charter we have section 325, which deals with debt impact statements, that prior to the adoption of any ordinance or resolution authorizing the placing of a debt authorization on the ballot, the mayor and council shall have prepared a debt impact statement. Is that going to be coming soon?
Yes, this action you'll be taking in the next week or so would hopefully instruct the city attorney to prepare the ordinances. At that point, the actual statement would be put together.
Okay, and it's going to follow the guidance, the request in the charter. The only reason I ask is because this is one of the few things I actually was responsible for including in the new charter, so I want to make sure you do it. The other thing was, in anticipation of moving this efficiently, are we moving our staff members in terms of the general managers affected, in terms of let's assume they get approved. Are we doing sort of the prep work, the pre-planning work with getting staff members in the different departments that are affected, say city engineers, the program managers? Is the city engineer, can they right now start the RFQ process to select the architects necessary to design these new facilities, both the fire and animal shelters? Shouldn't we get that ramped up so that if we get an approval we can move this efficiently and save money because, as we know, the cost of construction only goes up, it doesn't go down. Also, couldn't we start the process to acquire the necessary land parcels for these projects so that when we get there, we can have this all ready? So give me an update or give me some ideas in terms of, can we get some of this work done? What's doable, what's not?
Larry Stern with the Office of Administrative Research and Services. Yes, Councilman, everything you just said can be done in advance of approval of the bonds. There'd be no appropriations required, and staff could begin the process of sending out the request for qualifications, interviewing architects as well as consultants for land acquisition. As long as we don't commit the money prior to approval of the bond measure, there's substantial savings that can accrue by moving the program quicker and faster and saving the inflationary costs.
Okay, considering that it will help us save money, I would somehow, either today or when it comes back, want to move that we go in that direction and get ramped up for approval. Obviously, it's not a guarantee that it's going to get approved, but I think we're in the best position if we prepare for approval and then move the projects. I think that's in the best interest of the city.
Ms. Goldberg.
The cost to a average homeowner in the city for each bond would be about what?
Councilman, for the proposed fire program, it would average about $23.50 average per year for the average home.
For how many years?
They're 20-year bonds, and it would take over 22 to 24 years, depending on how the bonds are issued.
So about 23 or 23.50.
Yes.
And how about for the animal?
About $10 annually.
So we're talking about a $33 increase.
If both programs are approved, yes.
Okay. See, because my experience has been with a lot of folks is that if you take smaller bites, we get more yes votes. I'm wondering if we may have tried to do too much in each of these all at one time.
What we looked at here is that we have a $2.4 billion need for fire and police. There's 102 fire stations that are going to have to be replaced over the next 20 years just to bring us up to where we should be today. And so we felt that having a smaller program go forward is going to be quite insignificant given the need and the need to come back in another 7, 8 years to the voters.
Yeah, but if you do it in two pieces and people realize that it isn't the end of the world to have a slight bump, you might get them passed. I suspect that people will look at $500 million, which is what these two represent together, and a $33 increase, and some of them may not vote for these very important and very needed bonds. You know, I just am concerned and wanted to raise that, not because I don't support them. I support both of them, but I want them to win, too. And at this point in time, when we start putting $500 million on, sometimes people think, well, gee, that's an awful lot. Can't they do it in phases or something like that? So I wanted to just raise that before we get completely too far down this road, because while you're right, less would be less of an impact, zero is no impact at all.
The other consideration, I mean, this is a purely political judgment that the council and mayor will have to make, but the other consideration is if you put fewer facilities on the ballot, fewer areas of the city will be directly impacted, and the others are less likely to support it.
I understand.
Mr. Hernandez.
I don't know why I keep on thinking we should wait till after succession to introduce these measures. Let me first ask some simple questions. Fire Station 1, how old is it?
How old is Fire Station 1? Excuse me. It's approaching 60 years old.
That's in Lincoln Heights.
Yes, it is. It's on Pasadena Avenue.
Which is the one on York Boulevard in Highland Park?
On North Boulevard?
I mean on Figueroa Street.
On Figueroa Street?
What fire station is that?
I'm not sure what you're referencing.
In Highland Park.
In Highland Park?
Uh-huh. That's
Oh,
about-
12s, I'm sorry. I was thinking closer to 10.
That's about 60 years old also.
12s is just a few years younger than ones.
A
Yes.
few years younger than ones. Okay. How about Fire Station 84?
Fire Station 84 is in the West Valley. It was built in the early 50s.
Okay.
So it's about 50 years old, close to 50 years old.
Fire Station 11, I think, is one of the busiest.
Yes, it is.
And right now, we kind of bootlegged some parking and created some space. Why do I have the feeling this list is not complete?
Well, our original proposal was 37 fire stations, which would have included all of those.
Right.
For the very same reason we had just discussed. So we can't do them all at once. The two sites that you mentioned, 1s and 12s, we wanted to do. We wanted to do them right away. We felt that the priority and the need to build the regional stations was going to help us in keeping our resources more close to their districts. And then the second half of the proposal is single-base stations that we can't squeeze another resource in it, we can't move people to it. The two particular sites that you mentioned, besides 11s, 1s and 12s are both double-base stations. 1s is actually fairly large in consideration to some of the other sites. They are very old. 1s has a separate kitchen out in back, which was originally designed for when we had horses, to date that particular fire station. It never had horses there, though. But we felt that the priority to get the single-base stations upgraded, and then next time come around and get those stations that you had mentioned, 1s and 12s and possibly 11s.
Okay. I'm going to press my button again because I have some other questions in that way.
You actually still have a little time left.
Okay. Yeah. And the Frank Hodgkin Center.
Yes.
I spoke in committee about it. Members of the council, we have a major potential of a regional training facility at Elysian Park. It's the old Naval Reserve building. And we're anticipating taking over that facility in December, January. It'll become the city's. But it needs tremendous work, and I think we've all seen it at one point or another. How are we going to fund some of the improvements needed for that facility?
Well,
if I may, we are in full agreement with the councilman that we need all these facilities desperately. It's just a question of, do we put $1 billion bond issue before the voters? And the fire department had to prioritize somewhere. They chose to try to implement the regional stations, which will impact not just those stations but the nearby ones, and to replace those facilities that are so small that they're in most need of being replaced. I would love to do the training center. I would love to do all the older ones. We've got a lot more we have to do. But realistically, even if we got the voters to give us the money, which we doubt would happen if it's too large, we can't build everything at once. And these are the first...
Let me just say, Madam President, this will be my closing remark. The problem I have is you've completely excluded my district. And, I just want to point that out to you, because when I look at where the fire stations are going, when I talk about the district, and I'm very supportive of the needs of the fire department. There's no question in my mind that we need to do that. I just don't know, how do you anticipate getting the voters in my district to be supportive of something that they're completely excluded of?
Go ahead.
Yeah, what I have listed here in the district is 1s and 12s and 11s that we just mentioned. Fire Station 44 on Cypress, it was built in the last major bond.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a tremendous facility for us. We would like to have done all of them, believe me. Being that they're all large two-bay stations, we opted to go to the single-bay stations. We just could not add any more vehicles to the building. They just don't meet our needs today.
Okay.
Mr. Fewer.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be among those supporting a continuance, frankly, not only because people need the information, but because unless we speak with one voice on this issue in city government generally, a ballot measure will not succeed. We know how crucial it is to expand our animal regulation facilities and our fire facilities. And of course, in the case of the fire department issue, it's principally a matter of redoing the buildings that we already have, because our firefighters are not working in conditions that are conducive to their being effective. Animal reg's a different story. We know the equation that with more animal regulation staff people in the field to pick up stray animals, that process is so necessary for us. We still need to have a place for those animals to go. But let's not go there yet. We have a couple more days to discuss the details of this, in particular the accountability and the financial side of this. But I have a few suggestions that I think we ought to integrate into what moves forward. And these suggestions actually emanate from discussions with, among others, I was going to say the CAO's office, now the OR's office. There are several things that don't cost money, they've told us, but that we should be doing. One is to direct the oversight committees created for these programs to actually begin meeting to plan for the implementation. Another is to direct the affected general managers to designate their liaison staff members to these programs, especially the city engineer's designation of the Bureau's program managers. In addition, to direct the city engineer to immediately start the RFQ process to select the necessary architects to design the fire and animal facilities. And finally, to direct general services to start the process to acquire the necessary land parcels, assuming that we can collectively get the confidence we need in the details of these measures this week. Then I'm going to recommend that we incorporate into the action we take, probably on Friday, these provisions, because I think they will assure that we are moving at a pace sufficient to satisfy goals articulated, among others, by Ms. Chick, that we actually complete the projects in a short time frame. But for today, we still need to have council members satisfied about the locations in which these facilities will be placed. We need some council members satisfied that the overhead costs, which I understand are dramatically lower for this proposal than for other prior ballot measures that have passed in this city. We need people satisfied with that, and the oversight process in general. I hope we can get to yes on this, because without doing so, our firefighters will not be able to deliver the service that we expect of them, and will continue to have a city where stray animals pose a public safety threat from South Los Angeles to the north part of the valley.
Mr. Fuhrer, that was masterful. You did it in exactly 3 minutes.
I'm practicing for the next one.
Mr. Wax.
Yes, and I'd also like Ms. Roth to join us if we can. The mayor's, Mr. Troyan, thank you very much for preparing after the last committee had. I'd asked him to make a comparison between the Prop BB bond costs, construction management costs for the LAUSD and those proposed here for the fire and bond issue that we have here. I don't see one here for the animal services, but I'm going to assume for a moment it's comparable. Your numbers, Mr. Troyan, were that the combined program, project, and construction management costs for Prop BB were 19.1%, and that the combined program, project, and construction management costs for the fire bond issue is about 12%, 12.1%, which is substantially less than the 19. First two questions. Does the 12.1% cost for the city include city public works staff?
Yes, it does, Councilman.
And did the 19.1% for Prop BB bonds include the LAUSD staff costs?
No, it did not.
So if you factor in the staff costs as well, then the difference is even greater than 19 versus 12.
That's correct.
It might even be double. I mean, it might even be half of what the LAUSD was. If would 5% be a reasonable estimate for LAUSD staff costs?
I have no basis to make
Okay,
that
you might inquire there and perhaps ask. Then the question I really wanted to, that makes me feel a lot better, because there was a lot of concern that the Prop BB Oversight Committee wasted a lot of money on unnecessary management costs, and I don't want that to happen here. My question will be is whether the CAO and the CLA and the mayor's office have had an opportunity, and if they haven't today, if between now and Friday, an opportunity to look at the cost that you present, the comparison sheet that you presented, Mr. Vitoyan, to feel whether they're comfortable with those figures. I'm not asking anyone for a political judgment as whether they're for or against the thing. I just want to know that the facts upon which I base my judgment are accurate. And I'm not saying that they're not, but I want to know that everyone within the city family, and particularly, I do want to know that the mayor's office, which is assuming a greater role in financial management of the city, is comfortable with these figures. So I could either ask you now if you've had a chance to look at them. Ms. Roth has told me she hasn't really had an opportunity, so from her standpoint, we'll wait till Friday. But I don't know whether the CAO and the CLA have had a chance to look at these figures.
As far as ORS goes, we worked closely with engineering, as did the fire department, in coming up with the cost, and we're in full concurrence with them.
Okay, well, since this is going to be continued to Friday, I would appreciate the benefit of the mayor's staff's analysis as to the accuracy of these costs, and that's really important to me. And then if these are, online, I'll feel very good about this.
Ms. Mizikowski.
Thank you, Madam President. Inasmuch as this is going to be continued to Friday, I think a lot of the questions can be deferred, but I think it's been useful today to have the debate and the discussion so that some of those questions can be answered and in hand to the council members for Friday. Just to go over some of the issues that my colleagues have raised, I think Ms. Goldberg is right that we have to be concerned about what the amount is. And it's interesting because we look at the amount last time, 1998, and it was a $750 million indebtedness. It got about 60-some percent, 62, 63% of the vote, but it wasn't the 66%. And so this one at being reduced significantly, I think, is the right strategy. It also has two component parts, the $348 million for fire services and $154 million for animal services. So people can look and see that the numbers are being perhaps more reasonably put forward and taking a chunk, very much like the library bond reference shows, and doing a portion, identifying what those projects are, and then having, on the good faith and delivery of services and commitment to the community, able to come back if we can adhere to the cost controls, as Mr. Wax is talking about. Also, I think the information that Mr. Pacheco talked about, which is the charter requirement to show that this is consistent with our bonds. And also, I think to do aggressive actions now that are no cost to us, but the steps that Mr. Fuhrer talked about to expedite the bond funding. Members of the council, we know we're right now in a very serious inflationary not spiral, that inflation is occurring, and it's appropriate to go in and lock these costs in, lock these contracts in, lock the price of land in. And one of the things that we talked about in committee is that there isn't necessarily a sequential purchase or a sequential focus on these bond issues, that knowing that land cost is perhaps a significant factor, that once the bond is approved, if it is approved, our staffs will be ready with these teams to go out there and negotiate, get the land, and hold it as we then do the work and the architectural studies necessary. So I think that a lot of good information will come forward so that we will all feel more comfortable on Friday, as Mr. Fuhrer says, to really look wholeheartedly at putting a bond that we can support, that we think meets the criteria and the qualifications that Item 23 talks about and our former actions have talked about, to really deliver a bond that we can stand behind to the voters in November.
Mr. Hernandez, did you want to be heard again? Do you want to be heard again?
Would hope that there's some way we could allow for some of this bond money to be used for that regional facility once it becomes the city's. And I'm making that request because I think that the regional fire facility as a training center can become much more, can also become some kind of revenue generator in terms of training in the whole area. But also its location, I think, is prime to the community of Echo Park, downtown, Chinatown, Lincoln Heights, Highland Park, and so forth. And I go there and I see this tremendous facility that just needs some basic work. When you talk about the restrooms, the facilities for women, the facilities for the public, when you talk about a floor that warps because of a ceiling that leaks, I mean, it was built as a bunker to a large degree, but it needs some basic work. And patching it up isn't solving its potential. And so I'd like staff to kind of look at how is it that something could be set aside that could be used for purposes of this facility, because I think it's of tremendous importance to the department and the city as a whole. I think if the public could just take a tour and see, here you have this great asset that's going to waste, and it's going to be ours, and we don't have to buy the land. We don't have to construct a basic building, but we got to make some repairs to make it function properly. I think that's important.
Ms. Goldberg.
Two questions, very briefly. First one is the issue of women's facilities in stations for dressing and showering and restroom. Is that all taken care of in the bond issue?
We have one more phase to complete the existing fire stations, and that will be completed. All the new fire stations are built with separate gender facilities.
So if the bond issue were to pass, that would finish up everything?
Yes, yes it would.
Some of which doesn't require the bond issue, I understand, but
Right.
If the
that
bond
which
issue-
does would be...
If the bond issue passes, the 19 stations that would be built would all have separate gender facilities.
But also, we will have completed all of the others, is that correct?
There'd be no money provided in the bond for the others. That's being...
I understand that, but we will have completed all of them. Okay. The other question I have is just, since we're going to hold this over, I would like to get some kind of map of which facilities, both from Animal Reg and from the fire department, are in, which are out, so that we get some notion of how this was done.
And in that map, you might want to indicate, because there may be geographic holes, but there may be geographic holes where we've already spent money to upgrade something, so it would be helpful to indicate that as well.
The last bond program took care of many of the oldest stations, and that would be primarily in Council District 4, and where else, Roy?
Yeah, but all I'm suggesting is that when you are giving us each a map, that doesn't have animal on it. That's police and fire. We're not going to go through it all now, because we're going to hear this again on Friday. So thank you for bringing it, but hold on. If you're going to send us any material ahead of time, I would just suggest that you include in the map that several people have asked for where this bond issue money will be spent. Do it in a different color or a different cross-hatching or something where the last bond money was spent, so that we're not looking at the information in a vacuum. Mrs. Chick.
I'd like to move the entire matter, or...
Thank you. All right, now
hold it over till Friday.
Right, the
was
motion,
Thank
your
you.
motion earlier was to hold both the 10 and 25 over till Friday. We don't have a time problem in terms of putting things on the ballot if we do that, right?
Just point of order.
Yes.
As I understand, as long as the council acts by July 19th, we're fine. That is to give
Okay.
instructions, so we have time.
Yeah, all right. In
That's
that
right.
case, both 10 and 25 will be continued until Friday in time for you to get all the information everybody asked you for. And is that okay? Got that? All right. And item 8, which we're holding on the desk, is going to be continued until tomorrow at Mr. Pacheco's request. Okay, that's 10 and 25. Mr. Clerk, where are we next?
Item number
How did I
23.
get two speakers up here all of a sudden?
Item number 23, called special by Councilmember Goldberg.
What happened to 11 and 12 and 20? Oh, all right, yeah, let's do 23. Well, I thought we were going to be amending the other one. Let's do item 23, since it's related. Okay, Ms. Goldberg. All right, it's Ms. Chick's motion. You go first. Alfonso Gaston, who's
All
going to
right.
be, go ahead.
Thank you. Colleagues, what is before you, and Mr. Zvornich was asking for clarification as well. Over the last 3 to 5 years, a variety of council members have made important contributions to improving the city's oversight of our bond measures. That we have learned from some past oversights or mistakes, quite frankly, and have been slowly but surely tightening up on the process so that we can fully look the public in the eye and say we're doing this right and we're spending your dollars well and we're delivering what you need in terms of projects and facilities and police stations and fire stations. There was, however, 2 areas, and quite frankly, it was in part thanks to the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, VICA, for bringing this to our attention, that we had certain good ideas as part of our policy, but they were not in ordinance form tightened up in our admin code so that they were consistent requirements rather than things that we would put into place each time a bond came forward. Those 2 things are as follows. One, that we give a detailed list to the public when we ask for their vote on a bond measure, a list committing to what projects will be delivered if that bond passes. And two, a creation always of an oversight committee that makes regular quarterly reports. I believe it will be to the Budget and Finance Committee. Those reports, of course, are public. They are in as part of both the written and the verbal public record, and it's a way for the council to maintain its accountability to the public for their tax dollars. So I think what I'm asking for in terms of a unanimous vote is our reaffirming an already existing policy and making sure that we do this right, impeccably, and quite frankly, that we're role models, not only to other cities in California, but to the state as well, because we provide tighter oversight now than state government does under its existing guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Goldberg.
Well, I have some concerns about the proposal, and here's why. Representing a district which has amongst the lowest voter turnout in the city and the lowest registration per 230,000 people, the concern I have is this. If we get to the point where we're detailing what's going to be on the ballot, that we have some mechanism whereby we don't detail it in such a way that we plan it based on who will vote for it and who we don't care if they vote for it. And that's the danger. And it's a big danger because there are at least 2 or 3 districts which have very, very small registrations. And I could envision this being, unfortunately, becoming a very politically charged issue. I understand the need for looking at demographics before you do something to get votes. But I'm wondering how much of either of these bonds will be spent in any of these currently 3 of those districts that I can name that are low registration. And again, I don't misunderstand the need to do it, but if we have to detail the projects, and you can't add something later, because then you're restricted. You know what I'm saying? I just want to make sure that we have some concerns. On the other hand, just to show you that detailing it doesn't always work, Rampart and Hollenbeck were both detailed in Prop M. The police facilities bond, the only one that's passed in recent times, and neither of those facilities got built. So I have kind of a love-hate relationship, but detailing it doesn't guarantee it will happen, but detailing it may guarantee that projects that don't have a lot of voters behind them will never get put on it. So I want someone to address that before I vote for this, so I want this held over too, because I want to really have a discussion about how we make sure we don't end up boxing ourselves in so that areas that don't have the largest voter turnouts never see a dollar of these bonds.
One way to do that is something equivalent to a contingency that's always built into a cost estimate, that you build in enough flexibility to deal with emergencies or something else.
Okay. I'm just saying, the other issue that I wanted to raise, and that's why I've asked we hold this till Friday also, is I'd like to have some more explanation of how this oversight committees will be selected. Because here again, if the oversight committees are selected in a political process, and this will be after this mayor is gone, so this is nothing personal about this. It's just if it's done by the mayor each time, and it's a political process, the same problem may occur, which is where that mayor got their votes may result in who gets selected to the oversight committee. And I just want to throw these things out because we're talking about policies that should last a long time. And I want to make sure that they work to the advantage of the whole city and not just parts that are rich in voters. We would all love to be rich in voters, but some of us are also rich in people who are becoming voters, and over time they'll be voters, but they aren't voters now. And there has to be some understanding of this on my part for me to make sure this is a citywide process.
Okay, Mr. Hernandez.
Madam President, members of council, I'm not sure if I heard it from someone or else I coined the term people rich, resource poor when I described about my district. And it's because I am people rich, and for some reason the same kinds of resources you find in other communities are not there in our communities. When we talk about parklands, we talk about libraries, Right now, we just had a discussion about fire stations, and I don't want to talk about schools because everybody knows I have no schools. The reality is the school district has adopted a program that continues to emphasize putting schools not where the children live, but where they feel they can get them built. And that's become a real detriment to the education of our children. Now, when we dealt with Prop K, we had certain limitations because of it being an assessment district. And believe me that my taxes, even though Prop 13 is in place and I haven't moved, have almost doubled because of assessments. The reality is that this has become a vehicle to finance public facilities. But under Prop K, we put an oversight committee that included now the OAS office, the CLA's office, and the city engineer. And then they report to the Prop K committee, Committee on Children, Youth, and Their Families, on an ongoing basis. And that has become a very effective mechanism to create oversight of the development of our parks in our city, to the point where it's looking at Prop 12 monies, Prop 13 monies, it's looked at Prop A monies, it's looked at block grant monies, and trying to fill all the gaps. We used the same kind of procedure just recently when it came to our libraries. And it's a model that works. I'm just kind of sharing that because I'm not sure the other models work when you take it outside of this process. Politically, the realities are you deal with the same emphasis as when you're dealing with human nature, and that is that the principles of man tend to be corrupted by the politics of man. So I'm just kind of throwing it out because we have some models in place that are working. I, on an ongoing basis, know where the status of the 4 libraries to be built in my district are. I know when I can plan a groundbreaking. I know that I'm dealing with land purchasing. I know that at some point there'll be a ribbon cutting. And I'm very informed as to what's going on in the 4 libraries that are to be built because of the bond initiative that passed. The same thing is happening with Prop K. I didn't see that with other facility monies prior to those oversights being established. So I'm just throwing it out because we do have some models that are functioning. We have some models that have created some efficiencies. It allows for the CLA's office, as well as the city engineer, as well as the office of ORS, the CAO's office, to deal with the reality of how do we cut through the red tape. What are the issues that we have to deal with? So I just want to bring that to the attention of the maker of the motion.
Okay. Ms. Mizikowski.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate that I agree that the oversight committee that we're talking about here is not a political oversight committee. The oversight committee is that we did put in place successfully in the other bonds, and prior to that had not had an oversight committee. Prior to the most recent bonds, we had perhaps the department who was responsible for the bond not in touch with the general services, not in touch with the city engineer, not in touch with the CAO, and no one was responsible. So the oversight committee is not meant to be a political committee. It is meant to be the city's financial fiscal responsibility committee, and that is what has worked well, as Mr. Hernandez talked about recently. It can be augmented by local VNOCs like we have in Prop K, like we have in support of the library bonds, and that there's no harm in that. In fact, that's probably positive to have assistance or at least information given to the local communities. But the oversight committee itself that I think is spoken to in this motion is the city's fiscal responsibility oversight committee, and that is clearly necessary, and I think that the idea of drafting it as a part of the specific administrative code makes sense. I don't think it's anything to be fearful of in politics because it's not political, it's fiscal responsibility. And but I have no problem in recommending, in going ahead and allowing this to be put over till Friday. I think it makes sense to have it reinforced at the time that we might look at acting on the bonds. And I'd also like to ask what Mr. Savornich asked earlier, and that his motion, which says where we have these oversight committees in place that many of us do feel good about, that we do have an annual report on our library bond, on our zoo bond, on the recreation parks bond, what is going on annually, so that it's not something that we play catch up on 5 years later, but we get those annual reports on consistency, meeting the mark, meeting the costs, and having that information a part of an annual report to the city. So I think that should come forward on Friday as well.
Okay, Mrs. Chick. Yeah, can I just make a comment before you start? And I won't start your time yet. I am fascinated that we are, for the first time in a while, really getting into serious policy discussions here. And I think that I don't know if you will probably want to speak to the suggestion that this be continued, but I think some of these questions, while they have answers, are an interesting
are very important. And I just want to briefly address Councilmember Goldberg's concern. First of all, on the oversight committees, the intent is, and certainly in what's before us on the animal services and fire facilities, is to use Prop K as a model. We have been. It is a model. It's fantastic how well that oversight committee is working, and its city staff, director of ORS, city engineer, general managers, et cetera. The second thing, in terms of looking at possible inequities and decisions not being based on priority need, a couple of points. One, putting a list before the public is a good way to hold us accountable to deliver on what we say we're going to deliver on. It does not preclude making changes to the list, and in some cases, when we can deliver under budget and we make earnings off of interest, et cetera, we can add projects instead of deleting. Two, it forces us, colleagues, to do something we weren't so good at, and that's to be very thoughtful at the front end before we go to the public with the bond. So, Jackie, what we're doing on Friday is making sure that what's going on those lists are based on need, that the criteria of choosing where we are doing the first animal shelters and the first fire stations are based on important criteria of need, not on how to get the bond passed, because that's exactly not the way to re-earn the public's trust. But I think we'll get a few more of these answers fleshed out on Friday, so I'll look forward to that.
Okay, we have, Mrs. Chick, just, you're okay that it be continued till Friday? Okay, we're going to continue that item till Friday. There's no one else listed to speak. Members of the council, we have 4 more items, one of which has a large number of people here, 2 of which I think are going to go very quickly, and the third one I don't know anything about. So I have no idea what the concern is, so I don't know how long that one's going to take. So I know Mr. Fewer is anxious to get us to the item that has brought most of the chamber here. Let me suggest, I believe item 11 is going to be fairly quick, so let's take that one. Ms. Goldberg, you called item 11 special?
One question, and only one question, was living wage issue looked at this
Somehow
extension?
I deduced that was what you were going to ask. Where's Mr. Sabornich? Do you remember? I believe that the harbor is normally very careful on this. You can answer that
Well,
question.
it's just good to ask when they don't put it in their reports. If they put it in reports, I wouldn't have to ask.
Okay, go ahead.
Deirdre Reyes with ORS. The living wage ordinance was addressed in the Second Amendment, and that is included in the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we satisfied? Open the roll on item 11. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. See, I told you it wouldn't take long. Let me suggest that item 20, I think, will go fairly quickly. We have 1 card on item 20. Is Mrs. Walters here? I don't see Mrs. Walters. We're not going to take item 20. No, it's okay. We'll just hold it. We'll go on to the... Okay. The 2 remaining items, item 20 is an item in Mrs. Walters' district, and I don't think that will take very long. We have item 12, which was called special by Mr. Wax, and we have item 21. I think, let's go to item 21 and see what we can do. I have a very large number of people who've requested to speak, and so I'm going to first call on Mr. Fewer and see what you want to do. I believe there have been hearings on this item.
No, there haven't. I was going to propose 20 minutes on each side, given the absence of hearings before a council committee, and then to proceed to a vote.
All right.
There's been no hearing.
I see. All right, we have members of the council. Mr. Fewer has recommended that we have a 20-minute hearing for each side. Is there any objection to that?
I'm not opposed to that, but I understood you were waiting for my presence to take 20.
I didn't
and
want to
that's-
take 20 without you. If it's
Yeah,
going to be
that's-
quick, I'll do it, but we've got all these
Yeah.
people poised and ready to
It's
go
just
now.
very quick.
All
I
right.
support the need to take them into REAP.
All right, we do have one card on item 20. I think from what Mrs. Walters said, it'll be very quick. You're waving at me. Are you the gentleman who wanted to speak on item 20?
Yes, I am. Richard Carr, and Councilwoman Waters. I think I represent the receiver, Richard L. Sweeney, the receiver, who I have submitted papers to the clerk, who just acquired the control of the property within a few days and the report yesterday. So the receiver is interested in doing the repairs. I'm sure you're familiar with what a receiver is, but interested in doing the repairs, and coincidentally has some money, but certainly would prefer some of the rents to help remedy this, and would ask for a 60-day extension and not include REAP, this property in REAP at this time.
Okay, thank you. That closes the public hearing. So, Mrs. Walters, just respond to that and we'll...
No, I do not think a 60-day delay is indicated here. We have many problem properties that should be in REAP. This one is in REAP, and I think it needs to go there and stay. And he can,
So-
if there's a receiver, he can work with the city officials on this.
Okay, so you're moving approval of item 20. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Now let's go to item 21. We've had a proposal for 20 minutes on each side. We're starting with those who are opposed to the designation. I'm trying to make sure I have for and against correct. What we're going to do is run the clock for 20 minutes, and I'll just call you in order. We'll go as far as we can, then we'll start the clock again and hear from the other side, correct? Okay, so we're going to begin with, these are just in the order in which I happen to have them. If you choose to rearrange yourselves, it would help me if I knew that. The order in which I have them is, Mr. Resnick, you're not up at the front of this pile, you're at the fourth one. Does that mean you want to go first?
No.
All right.
But we do have an order, at least just on our team side, and there may be some other people from the community.
You
would
organize it. Just
okay,
go ahead.
We'll have Mr. Cavallari, and then the two experts, and then I will speak, and then there are some people from the community.
All right, go ahead. And please, if you would, each of you just give your name so I can keep this straight here. Okay, start.
Thank you. Dennis Cavallari with Legacy Partners. Legacy Partners wants to build rental housing in Los Angeles. We're currently building in Westwood in a partnership with the AFL-CIO Pension Fund, and we're also building in Warner Center. And we're also the leading candidate to develop housing units in the project at Sunset and Vine with Region Properties. Chase Knowles is an ideal infill housing development. There has been a lot of misuse of the term luxury housing, and I wanted to clarify that. We are building quality market rate units, and in many instances, we're including a large percentage of affordable units, and Chase Knowles is no different. We'd negotiated with the council office prior to any announcements that we would do the following. We would pay out each senior household $15,000 per household for relocation, plus we would also provide a full-time relocation consultant. And we would also offer 40 low-income affordable senior units in the new project when it came before council. To date, we have paid out over $1.5 million in relocation benefits, of which $1.2 million has been paid to senior citizens alone, and more will be paid to those who have signed up. We currently have relocated 82 of 98 senior households who are occupants at Chase Knowles. Legacy is involved in legitimate historic preservation, and the best example of this is our preservation program we have worked through with the constituents in the city of Pasadena on the Ambassador College campus. But let's be candid on the issue in front of us here today. This property, Chase Knowles, is at best marginally worthy of historic designation. Our consultants can point to scores of other examples of this very same property type throughout the city. This action is no other than a delay tactic. The repercussions of designating Chase Knowles will be heard very clearly throughout the housing provider community that LA is not a place to develop housing. If a housing provider addresses all the issues, new affordable housing, enhanced relocation benefits, and additional market rate housing units, They need to be supported, not pushed away. If city government expects to generate new market rate and affordable housing, how is this best accomplished? Designating Chase Knolls does not protect affordable housing. Supporting new development with affordable units, affordable and inclusionary units, sends the needed message. Thank you.
Thank you. And you are?
Robert Chattel.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Chattel. I'm a preservation architect with Mellon and Associates. The principal of our firm, Knox Mellon, is the former State Historic Preservation Officer. Mellon and Associates represents the City of Los Angeles on a variety of historic preservation projects, currently including Los Angeles City Hall, and in the past, the rehabilitation and expansion of the Los Angeles Central Library. You have entrusted to Mellon and Associates some of the great monuments of this city. The original council motion for consideration of historic cultural monument status stated Chase Knolls is significant for its association with Garden City and modern movements. The premise of the action before you is whether or not concepts of these important movements in urban planning and architectural design are embodied in this apartment complex. Based upon our independent analysis and professional experience applying federal, state, and local preservation law throughout California, we find Chase Knolls fails to meet established criteria for landmark designation. I have a passion for historic preservation when the resources merit recognition. This is not one of those cases. Our judgment is based on extensive training in the field of historic preservation. My expertise to make this determination is founded on 18 years practice and qualification in the areas of architectural history and historic architecture under federal standards. I hold a bachelor's in architecture from Berkeley and a master's in historic preservation from Columbia. Chase Knolls is not directly or indirectly associated with Garden City or modern movements. The quintessential Garden City influenced apartment project is Village Green in Baldwin Hills, a designated monument. On comparison, Chase Knolls has a vehicular alley in place of a public amenity, an expansive open space known as the Village Green, and smaller open spaces woven throughout the project. This is present at Village Green and absent at Chase Knolls. Chase Knolls has clustered buildings organized around small landscaped open spaces. These landscaped areas are not interconnected. There is no integration of indoor and outdoor space, and there is no provision for private open space. At Village Green, each of these features contribute to its significance. Without these physical characteristics, Chase Knolls cannot be considered representative of the Garden City movement. Again, this was the premise of the original council motion, disproven. What gives Chase Knolls its character is its mature landscape, not its skilled planning and design. Its buildings are the work of a competent architect applying a mix of traditional and contemporary styles. This is not a pure example of the modern movement. Rather, it is a competent arrangement from an architectural kit of parts representative of its period of design and construction. Chase Knolls is a commonplace garden apartment, not unique in the San Fernando Valley or elsewhere in the city. It is an undistinguished work by an insignificant design team. This property fails to meet established criteria for local landmark designation. It does not possess the required distinguishing characteristics of an architectural specimen inherently valuable for study. Recognizing Chase Knolls as a historic cultural monument will effectively lower the bar for future designations and make a mockery of what is intended to be an objective decision-making process based on established criteria and professional judgment of what is truly significant. Our Cultural Heritage Commission, to which you entrust judgment in these matters, failed to make a recommendation based solely on its merits. If you look at the situation objectively, the answer is clear. Chase Knolls is not significant and should not be designated.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Elizabeth McMillan. I'm an architectural historian with a specialization in the Renaissance through modern periods, and I was the architecture editor at Architectural Digest from 1982 to 92. I've served as the president of the local chapter of the Society of Architectural Historians and as a landmarks commissioner in Santa Monica. My PhD is from USC, where I teach part-time in the art history department since I left AD. I wrote the architectural sections of the first LA Access Guidebook, and I'm a member of PEN as an editor and a writer, including 3 books I've written on LA area architecture and design. After visiting the Chase Knowles apartments and researching the client builder, the architectural team, and the project itself, it's my opinion that the apartments do not merit monumental status. There are no findings to substantiate that Chase Knowles represents exceptional social thinking, planning, or architectural talent. In fact, there is no significant information whatsoever about the design team, and the few brief articles on architect Heth Wharton do not analyze his work for its exceptional skill or theoretical message. In other words, Wharton is not a noted architect of his time, and even as a competent designer, his work does not come to the level of particular historic or cultural significance. The request for designation asks that Chase Knowles be considered as a product of the modern movement and the Garden City movement. So let's look briefly at these categories. First, the design of the wood frame, hip-roofed buildings is virtually traditional. In concept, technology, and materials, they are not examples of the modern movement, despite the fact that they have Art Deco entrance ornament and stainless steel kitchen counters. These piecemeal decorative details are not exceptional, and whatever level of cleverness one wants to ascribe to them, they are not integrated into the whole design. In other words, it is pastiche modern ornament that could have been applied as easily as period style, like Spanish or Tudor. Second, in sharp contrast to the best examples of the American Garden City movement, as at nearby Village Green, the building density of Chase Knowles is far greater. Additionally, the planning is awkwardly oriented to an alley spine. It is inconsistent in its relationship to each street, and it's inconsistent in its density over the entire superblock. The apartments do not have a strong interior-exterior relationship. Each unit lacks the kind of individual terraces and patios that integrate the best garden apartments into their landscape. Now, even the commission's staff architect in his report recognized the difficulty of using these 2 precise historic categories. Instead, he recommended that Chase Knowles be designated on the most marginal of means, as illustrative of a modest garden apartment housing type typical of the time. I was shocked with his conclusion, especially when it followed after summarizing our very sensible argument in contradiction to the monument status. How does a housing type, that is, modest garden apartments like the housing type of single-family homes, become raised to the level of cultural significance and worthy of monument status? Unlike architectural type, housing type is a broad and unruly building category, and it is not included in the current designation criteria. Since Chase Knowles is simply commonplace to the housing type, and the apartments don't meet the requirements of being a structure of particular historic or cultural significance, why give it monument status? The apartments are not exceptional, extraordinary, or unique, and most particularly, Chase Knowles does not even exhibit the best of the hundreds of similar garden apartment structures of its period and of its housing type. As a teacher of architectural history and preservation, I ask you not to designate this commonplace project because in so doing, you will be giving importance to a generic housing type. You will dilute the importance of the Garden City movement and mislead our public and future generations. Just because a 50-year-old building has been well maintained and it has pleasant, mature planting does not mean that it has significant architectural significance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Resnick, I think you're next.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Ben Resnick, Jeffrey Mangels, Butler, and Marlboro, and we're here representing Legacy Partners. This is a very troubling case. It's troubling not because we think you have a difficult decision to make on whether this is worthy of historic designation. We think it's not. We've retained the best experts with impeccable credentials in order to analyze this and tell Legacy whether in fact it's worthy of designation. Knox Mellon and Associates has been entrusted with the city's treasures. They did the Central City Library. They did the City Hall work. They've done work for the CRA. They've done work all over. They don't find this to be historically significant. That's not the difficulty in the decision. What's troubling and difficult is how Legacy finds itself in this position today. Last winter, before they bought this property, they started discussions with the council office of this district to be able to work out a smooth transition of all the seniors and all the people and relocate. And only after those discussions went forward and there was going to be an enhanced relocation plan did they spend $24 million to buy this site in January. And then by the spring, they had agreed to pay $15,000 for every senior at the request of the council office and provide 40 affordable units in the new project at the request of the council office. There were other alternatives. I've got a spreadsheet that Legacy provided the council office and said, we can do this any which way you want. We can pay more to seniors, less affordable, less to seniors, more to other tenants. But it was negotiated and agreed. Legacy went forward and started implementing this program. As Mr. Cavallari told you, they have paid out $1.2 million to seniors and relocated them. 80 of them are gone. They have committed to relocate those seniors who have already signed on to leave later this month and in the coming weeks. That's another few $100,000. The issue of historical designation didn't even pop up in anyone's mind until after seniors were being relocated, until after Legacy bought into this proposal and this plan to relocate the seniors. And then in May of this year is when this motion was brought forth to you to designate this as a historical monument. Half the people are already gone as of today from Legacy. If you want to designate something historical, shouldn't you start at the beginning before you vacate people? If you want to have a chance of rehabbing these units, don't you want to keep the tenants there so you have a cash flow? What happened here is you've got a half-empty place now, you've got millions of dollars spent out, and now you want to start that process. Totally unfair. Now that's a separate issue, and the reason I harp on that is because in just the feeling that we get that there's a desire amongst many people in the city to help the tenants. And that's a legitimate goal and a good goal, and Legacy's part, we'd like to think, of ultimate housing solutions in this city. But we're not helping tenants by telling them we're going to designate this historical and somehow let them think they can stay there forever, because we all know the truth. The reality and the legality of this is that even if it's designated historical, Legacy still has the legal right to proceed with relocation of every tenant, to take the units off the market under the Ellis Act, and to proceed with its new plans. The only impediment will be it will have to do an EIR if this is designated as a historical monument in order to assess the value of the loss of this historical asset. So what have we done? We're going to have housing with costs added to it by the additional 18 months delay, the cost of the EIR. The ultimate market housing will be more expensive. We will have lost the 40 affordable senior units. There'll be some seniors who will not take advantage of the $15,000 relocation to their loss and their detriment. There's been a lot of misleading going on here, and people are under a misconception. Now, we ask you as a city council entrusted with a final decision in this city with whether or not something is worthy of historical status. That's a big job, because we only have 675 monuments in this city, notwithstanding the fact that we have hundreds of thousands of buildings. Why? Because to say something is historically significant is to say a whole lot about its architecture, its design, who the architect was, who the people were. And in this case, you don't have that level. And to say it's historic is not only to be intellectually dishonest, but on the goal of trying to help the tenants, it is totally misleading and dishonest. Let's be honest with ourselves. What we're fighting for is to say that this building, this arrangement that Legacy entered into and has paid out to assist tenants is unprecedented in this city. I don't think in any of your districts anyone has paid $15,000 for every senior, except last week maybe, Archstone. And so,
Mr. Resnick, do you want to allow any time for
yes,
some of the other people?
We
here?
ask you to please not designate this And you could certainly explain to the tenants the fact that they are and have been protected and well taken care of, but the fact is that that is not a solution for them to stay in a rent-controlled unit forever because you designate
All right,
historical.
but you're
Thank you.
not leaving much time. I have 2 cards from representatives of Myers and Associates, so my suggestion is that you decide which of you wants to speak while I call the next speakers, and then as soon as you're ready, one of you can walk up to the podium. Vera Bernhardt, and then I have 2 speakers, Mr. Fleck and Mr. Spurgeon. You need to pick one of those as well, because we're going to run out of time. And then Mr. Lewis, and then we'll come back to the Myers people. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm with Myers and
Oh,
Associates.
all right, go ahead.
Okay.
You are?
Michael Bayetti with Myers and Associates.
Okay.
Before I left the Community Redevelopment Agency and went to Myers and Associates, I was part of the CRA relocation team, where this city council or other members of the city council have relocated thousands and thousands of people throughout the city. Many of those buildings from which these people were relocated were Victorians, craftsmen's, built by noted historical figures, occupied by historic figures, built by incredible architects like Green and Green. This city has authorized that they be demolished time after time again. And I have helped many of them, thousands of those people, relocate. We have seen so many people displaced from truly historic structures. Chase Knowles does not represent a truly historic or architecturally significant structure. The 550 families relocated to expand the convention center, now many of them were 100-year-old buildings, but they were not seen fit to remain standing. I don't see why Chase Knowles could possibly qualify as architecturally or historically significant. The thing that I find particularly amazing about Legacy Partners is that even under the city's relocation programs, under state and federal relocation guidelines, never once did my supervisors at the Community Redevelopment Agency willingly offer payments in excess of what was required by law. I find it particularly amazing that a private concern, which we all know is certainly for-profit, has voluntarily offered to double and triple payments offered to people. Thank you very much.
Ms. Bernhardt,
Yes.
go ahead.
My name is Vera Bernhardt. I resided at the Chase Knowles for 25 and a half years. I'm being told that we had to vacate. The Chase Knowles Association held meetings, which I attended a couple of them, and thought that everything was going to be okay, we wouldn't have to move. I was fed a whole lot of this information. And when I decided to move because of health reasons, I was told I was greedy, that I was a traitor, and I was treated like I was a leper. Now, I find that the Chase Knowles Association has not been giving the right information to senior citizens. They have been terrified, a lot of them. And as a matter of fact, they got the relocation people to meet them at nighttime in their apartments. They were so afraid of the Chase Knowles Association. Now, I know of a lot of the tenants, the senior citizens have taken this opportunity to move to where they would like to be. I have a friend who went to Idaho, one who went to Canada. They've gone down to as far down as San Diego, Redondo Beach. They've all used this money which they were offered, the $15,000. And I think that's the whole problem, is because the people with the $2,000 are using the senior citizens as a butt against moving out.
Thank you. We've now run out of time, so I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your coming. I'm going to ask that, since we have run out of time, I'm going to make the other 2 cards a part of the record so that you will be included and your views are on record. We know which side you're on. We're going to run the clock now the same amount of time for those who have an opposing point of view, and then I believe we're going to get to a council discussion of it. So these cards will also be a part of the file. And if you'll reset the clock, we're now going to, in order, Mr. Afriat, followed by Teresa Grimes, Ken Bernstein, William Nick, and then we'll see how far we've gotten. Go ahead. The clock is running. You're on.
Thank you, Madam President. Council members, my name is Stephen Afriat. I'm a registered legislative advocate representing the LA Conservancy and pro bono the Chase Knowles tenants. I just want to point out that all of you know I'm usually on the other side of an issue like this. The reason why I point that out is because I would not even think about jeopardizing my standing with an important client base if I didn't believe this application truly had merit. I don't live too far from Chase Knowles, and one morning a couple years ago I was out taking a walk, and typically I would drive by there on Riverside Drive, and I walked into the complex, and I was amazed that such a community existed not only in Sherman Oaks, but in Los Angeles. It was pristine, it had open space. I noticed a lot of the units had fireplaces, front and back doors, patios, the kind of things that you don't see in low and moderate rent-stabilized housing anywhere in the Valley and very few places in Los Angeles. This is an issue not about stopping a development or which tenants are right or which tenants are wrong. This is an issue that's about whether or not this community has merit to be designated as a cultural historical monument. And you'll hear expert testimony telling you otherwise. But clearly, this does have merit. Clearly, this is like units that have been cited to you earlier by the other side. It certainly is similar to Park La Brea, but for the fact that there are no high-rises and but for the fact that there's not a street system traversing this community. All consultants, including the first one hired by Legacy, agrees with this designation, but that first report that was provided to Legacy will never see the light of day. The fact is, Cultural Heritage Staff Architect recommended approval of this, and this is not a commission that is known to support these nominations. If you support this designation today, there will be an opportunity for all interested parties to study what makes sense on this site. It can still be developed, as the developer's representative pointed out to you, through an EIR process. Perhaps it'll be more viable for condos or some other opportunity. It can be rehabbed, and it can be rehabbed with union labor. There's a lot of opportunities to do the right thing on this site. But if this city council does not designate today, and if this city council does not grant these people who live here and this cultural and historical monument that should be designated a stay of execution, we will not see the benefits of what can take place as a result of buying this one-year time. And we will not see the ancillary benefits as a result. While the decision before you is historical and cultural, there are other benefits. Tenants who have lived there 30, 40, and 50 years can have a chance to stay and work things out with the property owner. An open space community can have the opportunity to be a shining light and example for other developers to follow rather than high-rise, high-dense apartment development and luxury apartment development. This low-cost complex, rent-stabilized complex is what makes my community more unique. If you don't designate today, you will not be able to take back that decision. But if you designate today, there'll be opportunities to make a multitude of decisions in the best interest of everyone, and I urge you to support the motion before you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Grimes, followed by Ken Bernstein and William Nick and Mary Jane Atkins. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Teresa Grimes. I was asked to take a look at the property on behalf of the council office and subsequently prepared the monument application. I too am an eminently qualified architectural historian with nearly 15 years of experience in the field of historic preservation. I have an MA in architecture from UCLA. I've worked for the Los Angeles Conservancy, the Getty Conservation Institute, Historic Resources Group. As a consultant, I am employed by the most respected historic preservation attorneys, architects, and developers in Los Angeles, including Bill Delvec, Jack Rubens, Brenda Levin, Barry Malofsky, and Tom Gilmore. I was the president of the West Hollywood Cultural Heritage Board, and I currently sit on the the board of Highland Park Heritage Trust. I live in a house which is a designated monument. It was not designed by a noted architect, and no one famous ever lived there. Yet the people of Highland Park consider it to be one of the most special places in our neighborhood. In the last 15 years, I've researched and documented hundreds of properties and it is my professional opinion that Chase Knolls is eligible to be designated as a historic cultural monument. Monument designation requires that properties meet one or more of the criteria for determining historic significance in the Cultural Heritage Ordinance. One of those criterion is for properties which embody the distinguishing characteristics of an architectural type specimen inherently valuable for study of a period, style, or method of construction. Chase Knolls is significant in the architectural history of Los Angeles as an exceptional example of a garden apartment complex. This type of housing was a product of the Garden City movement and the modern movement, and was important in the development of Los Angeles after World War II as a meaningful alternative to single-family residential development and as affordable multifamily housing for the surging population. Similar garden apartment complexes have already been designated at the local, state, and federal levels: Village Green, Park La Brea, Wyvern Wood. While these complexes have shared characteristics which place them in the same architectural context, they also have distinct differences. For example, while the Village Green and Wyvern Wood have a single central green space, Chase Knoll has three that are on an axis. Similarly, while these three complexes have front doors opening onto the main green spaces, at Park La Brea, the main spaces are off the back doors. My point in outlining these distinctions is that there were various interpretations of the garden court apartment complex, not just one. Just as craftsman houses are all similar but different, and just as Art Deco skyscrapers are all similar but different, so too Chase Knolls can be different from the Village Green and still be a part of the same architectural movement. While sometimes experts disagree, the only experts who do not think Chase Knolls is eligible as a monument are the ones who are being paid by the developer. The architect for the Cultural Heritage Commission agrees, the Conservancy agrees, their Modern Committee agrees, the lady who prepared the landmark application for Village Green and the National Register application for the Village Green agrees. Professors of urban planning and architecture at Cal Poly Pomona, Cal State Northridge, and UC Riverside agree. You don't need to be an expert, however, to recognize that Chase Knolls is a special place in the San Fernando Valley, and it deserves to be honored with a designation as a monument. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, when we finish, we'll let you all stand up so we can see how many there are, but the clock keeps ticking through the applause. Mr. Bernstein, go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. Ken Bernstein with the Los Angeles Conservancy. You've heard already today that this nomination is somehow a subversion of the historic designation process, misusing historic preservation for selfish purposes to keep rent-controlled apartments. Let me start by saying the Los Angeles Conservancy is not an organization that typically intervenes in landlord-tenant disputes. We are only an organization that speaks up when very significant Los Angeles buildings and sites are at risk, and such is the case here. The tenants, it has been explained to them repeatedly, they know that designation does not necessarily mean that individually they will end up staying at Chase Knolls. They know that rehabilitation could lead to many options, but they are willing to stay and fight because the battle is about this very special place, and they know that Chase Knolls is worthy of designation. Of course, there are other garden apartment complexes in Los Angeles. You all have them in your district, but almost none, save Village Green in the Baldwin Hills, has the unique set of qualities that Chase Knolls offers, and here are some of them. The lush landscaping, the full separation of the automobile from the pedestrian walkways that are connected one to the next and allow a pathway through the project, emphasis on common open space, the integration of public and private space and semi-private and semi-public space, wonderful modernist architecture, and the sheer size of the project and its master plan built over what's called a superblock. Those are characteristics that do characterize the Garden City movement and clearly set Chase Knolls apart from other garden apartment complexes you have in your districts. We've been approached at the Conservancy by other tenants at other garden apartment complexes who are also facing threats, and we have declined to intervene in those cases because they simply did not have the unique qualities of Chase Knolls. I asked for Village Green. Village Green is fantastic. There's no question about it. It's going to be one of 12 National Historic Landmarks that we have in all of Los Angeles. But that doesn't mean it's the only Garden City Garden Apartment complex that can be designated. For example, just because we have one historic theater or one Craftsman home on the list of monuments doesn't mean that that would disqualify every other historic theater or every other Craftsman from designation. As was mentioned, the other 1940s garden apartment complexes most comparable to Chase Knowles, Park La Brea and Beverly Fairfax, Wyvernwood in CD14 have won historic status. They've been officially determined eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, which uses criteria that are more stringent than the city's historic cultural monument criteria. And this has been called by the Los Angeles Times a working class monument. It's true, Chase Knowles may not have been designed by a master architect, but it doesn't have to have been to qualify for historic cultural monument status. Mr. Resnick failed to tell you that in order to approve designation, only one of several criteria need to be met in order to designate. In this case, Chase Knowles meets at least two of the criteria. One, as was described, that the broad cultural, economic, or social history of the community is reflected or exemplified. You've heard already how Chase Knowles exemplifies the post-war development boom of the San Fernando Valley, the Garden City movement, a new model of affordable housing. In addition, Chase Knowles easily meets the criterion that a monument should embody the distinguishing characteristics of an architectural type specimen. It does embody the characteristics, as you've heard, of a Garden City garden apartment complex and does it beautifully. What about the argument these are just plain, ordinary buildings with a few nice trees? We distributed a paper to all of your offices that addressed this issue. There are many landscape features alone that have been designated as monuments in this city, but it's the integration of landscape with modernist architecture and the Garden City plan that's important here. Yes, these buildings are spare. They are modernist buildings, but not all monuments have to have fancy ornamentation and lavish Baroque architecture to be designated. These are spare modern buildings with clean lines, glass and inexpensive materials, and subtlety in architectural variations. And even if you don't appreciate modernism yet, just remember that Victorian and Art Deco architecture was not appreciated for many years, and we lost many of the best examples before we had an opportunity to designate them. Chase Knowles is one of those very special places. It's a place truly designed for people, and that builds into its very design a sense of community. Your vote for designation today tells Chase Knowles and the city that this is special and opens up opportunities for discussion and examination.
Thank you. We have 6 more speakers and 7 3/4 minutes. Go ahead. Mr. Nick?
Yes, my name is Brother William Nick. I'm the president of Notre Dame High School, located directly across the street from Chase Knowles Garden Apartments. I'm here to speak in favor of designating Chase Knowles as an historical cultural monument. Chase Knowles provides affordable housing in a park-like environment that has made it possible for the residents and adjoining neighbors to be a community for over 50 years. Today in our city, we are faced with the decline of affordable housing, and at the same time, we have the need to bring people together to build stronger neighborhoods. Chase Knowles, as a garden-style housing complex, serves both needs and as such should be preserved. The quality of life that has existed at Chase Knowles these many years has been a special gift to this particular area of the city. It has been a stable community, providing support and cooperation. The Chase Knowles residents have been wonderful neighbors to our school and have supported our school activities, even our loud and crowded football games. Together, our two campuses provide a green belt along Riverside Drive that has provided a park-like atmosphere for the entire neighborhood. Designated Chase Knowles Garden Apartments as an historical monument will now preserve this special gift of community to the neighborhood and to the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Jane Atkins, to be followed by Penny Singleton.
Thank you. My name is Mary Jane Atkins, an instructor of English at Glendale College and Chase Knowles resident for 7 years. Now I'd like to introduce you to the people who really represent Chase Knowles, all of the hundreds out here in the audience. As you can see, we are not a small group of disgruntled young residents. We are longtime residents, non-residents, former residents, neighbors, concerned preservationists, friends and family who know and love Chase Knowles. We are the people who have lived at Chase Knowles for 2 to 3 generations. We have foregone modern amenities such as dishwashers, swimming pools, clubhouses for the sake of a beautiful view, lush landscape, and a park-like setting in a close-knit community. We have planted our own community gardens at Chase Knowles. We have participated in Pride and Property Days. We have ridden out 2 large earthquakes in structurally sound buildings. We have grown up at Chase Knowles. We have raised children here. We have attended neighborhood schools, patronized the neighborhood businesses. We also stand here for former residents and neighbors who have phoned from all over California wanting to help us. And finally, we stand here for our elderly and disabled people who could not attend today but await your decision with the greatest anxiety. We are hundreds of residents and neighbors, young and old alike, who know and love Chase Knowles as a very special place. We believe in preserving Chase Knowles for the community. Demolition is not the answer. We know there are practical ways to save Chase Knowles. A yes vote today allows the opportunity to explore those alternatives to preserve a very special place. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Singleton, I just want you to know I've been a fan of yours since I used to listen to you on the radio, and I am thrilled to meet you here.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Penny Singleton, and I lived at Chase Knowles for almost 2 decades. I am not only a part of Chase Knowles history, I'm also a part of Hollywood history. I starred as Blondie in over 25 Blondie films from 1938 to 1950. When GIs were returning from World War II, Joseph Chase was breaking ground for the Chase Knowles Garden Apartments as the urbanization of Los Angeles was spreading to the San Fernando Valley. Architect Heth Wharton chose charming and unique interior apartment designs that retain the history and character of the late 1940s. Now, walking into any home at Chase Knowles is like walking onto the set of a post-war 1940s film. We cannot be so quick to discard our historic housing in Los Angeles and especially the San Fernando Valley. Real estate developers have been too quick to destroy its historic housing rather than restore and preserve well-maintained buildings. By preserving the landmark buildings of Chase Knowles, you preserve the community of a time gone by where neighbors know their neighbors. Thank you so very much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Barry Cullison, followed by Jan Foner.
Hello,
Go ahead.
Barry Cullison. Listen, I've lived in Chicago, New York, and LA, and never have I had an apartment that made it so easy for me to meet my neighbors. Sitting on my back stoop, I'm being asked if I can fill a prescription. I admire babies on the lawn. We have barbecues in the backyard and share this with neighbors. We eat fruit from the trees there, and then we talk about what a wonderful place Chase Knowles is to live. Chase Knowles architecture creates community. It is unique in its ability to bring people together. Now, I understand that I may be moved even if Chase Knowles is awarded historic status today, but let me drive by Chase Knowles and be proud that LA had the good sense to recognize its impact on the past and the future. I want to know that someone else is having the same quality of life living experience that I've had. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Feiner, and then Ellen Michelle, and then we're done. Go ahead.
My name is Jan Feiner, and I've been a homeowner in the neighborhood of Chase Knowles for 35 years. To destroy what is there would change the nature of our neighborhood. What we have now is a peaceful, safe, and stable environment with many tenants who have lived there for 35 to 50 years. The complex blends in harmoniously with the surrounding single-family houses. It is an oasis, but it is also culturally and historically important because it was created as low-cost housing for returning veterans of World War II and their families. It was to be a place of comfortable and attractive housing for a hardworking, contributing segment of our society. It still is and could be for some time to come. It is special both for the reasons it was built and because of the people who live there now. They are a boon to our neighborhood, and as homeowners, we hope they can stay. Certainly, property owners have rights, but they should also have responsibilities to honor the significance of the past, to respect the state of the present, and to acknowledge the impact of their actions on the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council President Galanter and members of the City Council. My name is Ellen Michael. I'm the Executive Director of West Valley Community Development Corporation, and I was asked to perform the happy task of thanking you. It has been our experience over the last several weeks to have met with most of your staffs and to have had the privilege of meeting directly with several council members. It is a wonderful opportunity to see government in action, and we wanted particularly to thank Councilman Hernandez, Councilman Holden, and Councilwoman Walters, who made the trip to Chase Knowles to actually see it, and Mr. Holden and Mr. Hernandez, who took the time to meet directly with us. And for all of you and your staffs who gave us your time and your attention, we know that this is a careful decision on your part, not one which you have jumped to. I have been asked to tell you that this is not an exercise in futility. We do know enough about how this property could be financed to know that there are alternatives which bear consideration, alternatives to demolition that would allow this property not only to remain, but to remain affordable. We believe that it is the opportunity that you can give us to explore those alternatives, to look at them carefully, and to find ways of preserving this project not only for future generations, but for future generations of people of very modest means. This project is wonderful in that it does have something very important to teach us today. It teaches us that community is not an accident. It teaches us that multifamily and single-family housing can live together in the same neighborhood without the sky falling. It tells us that it is possible to integrate neighborhoods economically. And it tells us that a sense of community, not walls, are the best security that anyone can have. We thank you very much. We hope for your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes the public hearing. Everybody hear that? That closes the public hearing. The matter is now before us. The chair recognizes Mr. Fewer.
Thank you very much, Madam President. First, I want to note for our colleagues that I have moved and Ms. Walters has seconded the designation of Chase Knowles. It is item 21A, in which we'll vote in a few moments. I want to discuss the designation, and then I want to discuss the practical relationship between the designation and affordable housing throughout the city, and in this case in particular, at Chase Knowles in Sherman Oaks. First, regarding the designation. There are 4 provisions in the administrative code that are, one of which is necessary to be satisfied before designating something an historic cultural monument. One has to, again, only identify one of these criteria as being satisfied in order for a building to be designated. 2 of those criteria include that the building is of historic or cultural significance to the city, which reflects its cultural, economic, or social history. And another criterion is the site embodies distinguishing characteristics of an architectural type, specimen, or otherwise that's inherently valuable for a study of a period style. Chase Knowles, as you've heard from a series of experts, satisfies not one but both of those criteria under the administrative code. It satisfies it for at least 4 or 5 different reasons. Chase Knowles exemplifies the post-war development boom of the San Fernando Valley and a new model of high-quality, affordable housing. It is an intact and representative example of an exemplary type of housing, the mid-20th century garden apartment style. It stands out from the cookie-cutter development of modern architecture, which indeed sets it apart from most of the development in the San Fernando Valley. And it is a building which matches element for element those Garden City apartment complexes throughout the city that have already been designated. Every independent expert to assess this issue, including the staff architect for the Cultural Heritage Commission, agrees that Chase Knowles should be designated. Let me talk about why it should matter as a practical matter and how that relates to affordable housing. When Chase Knowles gets designated, there will be, of necessity, an EIR performed. Alternatives to the proposed demolition of Chase Knowles will come before, ultimately, this body. Alternatives that are informed by not only choices regarding development, but also fiscal analyses that have yet to be performed or yet to be made public. The Housing Department has already done a preliminary analysis that suggests that there are economically viable alternatives to demolishing Chase Knowles. I want to conclude by noting this. We have a chance, colleagues, before it is too late to designate Chase Knowles. If we do not take this opportunity, this piece of history will be lost to us. We'll have lost the chance to conduct the analysis that I mentioned would be incumbent on this site were it to be designated. We'll have lost, as Ms. Singleton stated, a sense of a history that we could never recapture if we allow Chase Knowles to be razed. What are the tangible benefits to the city? Because after all, Chase Knowles is in my council district, but all of you representing various parts of Los Angeles have to make a decision about this. Well, there are, I think, a number of tangible benefits to the city from designation. We preserve this unique historical moment in the San Fernando Valley. That's one. We have a chance, as I just mentioned, to fairly evaluate the alternatives to simply raising Chase Knowles, displacing these people, but most importantly, getting rid of this piece of history. We can create financial opportunities that aren't otherwise available, including tax credits that come with historic designation from which even the developer can benefit. We can save 260 units of highly desirable, affordable housing in a city that is suffering an affordable housing crisis. And as I said, in addressing that crisis, we have an opportunity to assure that the city embarks on a new course where we don't simply dispense with important history, but we honor it. I urge unanimous support for item 21A, the designation of Chase Knowles.
Okay. Mrs. Chick.
Yes, just very briefly, I rise in support of my colleague, Councilmember Fuhr. I think the case has been made very easy for us, colleagues, in terms of the rationale for taking this action today. I know that we always want to be responsible and do the right thing in terms of what are the legal guidelines and parameters, and I think that we are well within them. And I also think that when we look around the world in which we live, when we listen to what people have to say, we hear over and over again in our many communities throughout the city how sad it is that we don't know how to save things of value and worth in the city, how easy it is to knock things down and start over again, but it's very often not over again in a better way. And I think that both in listening to the tenants in particular, as well as our colleague, that there is something of great value and merit to be saved, and it is within our rights, and I think within our responsibility to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The Chair recognizes Councilwoman Walters.
Thank you, Mr. President. As one of the speakers indicated, I had the opportunity to go out and look at these apartments, and with all their trees and the space between them and the sort of peaceful ambiance that they create, I think it would just be criminal to demolish these apartments and put up what we call modern apartments with every bit of space taken up. You can't stretch your arms out without hitting the next door neighbor in most of these modern apartments. And so I certainly would hope that the new owners of this would reconsider their plans to demolish it. I was very sad to see that the new owners, after evicting some of the people, had begun to board up the windows and just make it look ugly, or try to make it look ugly around there. There just didn't seem to me to be the necessity to do this. I understand that they're concerned that squatters or vagrants may go in. I don't think so. And I understand that some 85% of those wonderful old growth trees are going to be cut down to make way for this new proposed project. I mean, that would be sinful. on top of it being criminal to tear this down. It had many features that are certainly admirable and that our modern-day builders could take under submission. I liked the windows, the wide windows, the vast amount of light and air that comes into these apartments. It was a very pleasant afternoon for me and my staff, and I would hope that we can preserve this so that the residents there, new residents to come, will have many, many pleasant afternoons and days to continue living there and staying there.
Thank you. Ms. Misikowski.
Thank you, Madam President. I also rise in support of this designation, and I wanted to speak because I didn't come to it easily or lightly, and I know that that speaks to many of the members of the council. As many of you know, because of the case we had here about a week or two ago in my district that also involved some tearing down of some apartments that were predominantly lived in by seniors and had the same vintage. It was about a 1950s, and it was also a garden-style apartment. The tenants in that building had raised the issue with me, shouldn't it too be considered for cultural historic status, because this one was tracking at the same time. And I had some concerns about that because I was curious as to that point. We are now in the year 2000, and the garden-style apartments were built in the late 40s, the early 50s, and we have a whole heck of a lot of apartments out there that might be eligible for this, might be considered, and it would, I think, have a potential impact and damper on our ability to build new housing today. But then I looked a little closer and, in fact, talked to members of the Conservancy to say, is it just that we are preserving a nice 1950s building that is well-maintained, is good-looking, is well-landscaped, and is that going to be the criteria by which we're going to consider this? And I think I was very pleased when I saw the Conservancy's paper that really addressed some of those issues and talked about the distinction and the difference. And in fact, members of the council, the Conservancy members looked at the building in my district and said, both to me and the tenants in that building, it doesn't qualify. Although it's garden style, although it's got landscaping, although it's that vintage, it is not something that we can put our mark on and think that it makes sense and recommend it. So I think we are, just a note of caution, that we do have to hold ourselves to that kind of criteria. And in looking at this one, not only to its architectural style, as has been indicated, and to what the Conservancy talked about in terms of really the layout, and not only the layout in itself, but the layout over the vast expanse. Everyone has been talking about the trees, the site, the buildings, but members of the council, we were given today this, which is an aerial photo of a good chunk of the San Fernando Valley, and this project stands out in an aerial photo because it is over such a large territory of land and shows so distinctly how different this is from the standard typical 50s development in sense, which took a small lot, a small maybe 2 or 3 lots, and crammed it with development. This didn't do that. And in itself, just in terms of its urban planning, its layout, its sense of style, it works. And I think that that is another reason for its special characterization. The only other thing I'd like to mention, members of the council, is I don't know how many of you saw in the calendar section of the Times yesterday an interesting article called Architecture Under Glass, questioning how the city is now struggling with buildings, what buildings to preserve, and how we show our respect for the past. And one of the things that struck me, and I will be bringing in a motion in the near future, is this paragraph says, equally absurd, the city's Cultural Heritage Commission, which makes decision on landmark status, does not include a practicing architect or anyone with serious training in the city's architectural history. Without such expertise on the commission, the city is ineligible for federal preservation grants. So just that very nature of giving the designation today, which I hope we will do, we are somewhat precluded and limited from our ability to look at alternate funding, some of which have been brought forward, because we in our own establishment of how we go through a designation and how we arrive at that criteria don't meet the criteria that the federal landmark status has. And I think we can change that, and we should. And so I will be bringing in a motion to say that our Cultural Heritage Commission should include a practicing architect who has some degree of that architectural history, so we can avail ourselves of those funding and resources in that year's worth of study.
Mr. Wax.
I want to compliment the people who have brought this issue before us and my colleagues for the level of the discussion and the debate. We've come a long way when we can consider this. in the way that we are today. It was not long ago when I saw buildings that were worthy of preservation in this city destroyed because councils didn't care. And I saw other examples, and this gives hope to the people who are here today, where when we did hold firm, or when the Conservancy challenged this council and held firm and went to court, we have seen where buildings that looked like they had no hope remain today, and have not only remained, but they have are being adaptively reused and remain living historic monuments. I'm hopeful this will be the case here. I have a long history with Chase Knowles. 29 years ago, I represented Chase Knowles for a long time, and 29 years ago, many of the people who live there helped me first get elected to the city council. I hope that doesn't qualify me as a historic monument, but I look as I think of the future of this city, and the irony is that instead of talking about possibly tearing down something like Chase Knowles, our discussion and focus should be on how do we replicate that? How do we create more of that throughout this city? I mean, it's a lot about a way of life. It's about a sense of community. It's about family. It's about a sense of identity, a sense of place. That's what this city is desperately longing for. That's what people in every neighborhood around Los Angeles wants. They want a sense of belonging. They want a sense of being part of something. They want a sense of community. You've got it here. We should be looking to say, how do we repeat this all over the city and not tearing it down? So I thank the people. I thank the people for their heroic efforts, and I'm hopeful that we can use the time ahead of us wisely in trying to preserve this. And I give a lot of credit to Mr. Fuhrer for the way in which he's handled this on your behalf.
Mr. Hernandez, it's not over yet. Sit tight. We'll get there. Mr. Hernandez, go ahead.
Maybe I should just let us get there and not...
Well, there's three more people who want to be heard, so...
Madam Chair, members of the council, this was not an easy decision on my part until I took a few extra steps. First, I wanted to share that I'm an advocate for affordable housing throughout the city, and the fact that we have to allow our communities to live together throughout the city. And sometimes that's not the case. When this issue first came up, I thought it was just another housing issue, and then some of the residents of Chase Knowles came to see me and brought me a nice presentation in the form of a notebook and talked about their concerns. And I shared with them that their time was not wasted, and I appreciated their presentation as citizens of the city. And I did not share with them what I was going to do. On July 3rd, I took the opportunity of doing a little work, and that was, I thought I'd ride the new subway system. And I ended up in Mr. Wax's district. You know, our stations are so remarkable. Many more of us should ride the subways and get off and look at the stations, because as you get off each station, you see different parts of the city. Whether it be MacArthur Park Station, Pershing Square Station, whether it be the Civic Center Station, 7th and Flower and Miss Walters District, the reality is you get to see the city. And getting off at the North Hollywood station, I was with my wife. We decided to take a taxi to Chase Knowles and to look at it. And my wife's reaction was, how come we don't have a place like this in our neighborhood? I was sharing with her the concept of replacing it. And she felt that it should be preserved. Now, she's not a historian. She's just another Angelina. But believe me, I have to listen to her. And I'm kind of sharing it because it is unique. It is different, especially in its location and the school next to it and so forth. And it does stand out when you're there as one of the places that Los Angeles should be known for. And I just wanted to share that story because that's what made my final decision. On the face, it doesn't look like something you want to do. Now, I want to also share that the reality is our historic designation doesn't preserve it. It allows for options to be considered. And in my own council district, I've had several projects where I've had to allow this whole administrative process go through before I can ultimately make a decision. And I think this is part of that process, and people should be aware of it. because ultimately what happens will be determined after the EIR and that full study is done.
Mr. Savornich.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the council. As I listen to some of the debate here on the council, it just takes me a little back in time to where I was fortunate to know in my lifetime 2 garden-style apartments in my community. One is still there, one isn't. The one on 28th Street was recently purchased by a developer and refurbished. It's absolutely gorgeous. The other one, by the time I had assumed office, was a vacant lot. And the choice was, at that time, many, many years ago, to refurbish these garden-style apartments, tear them down and build 220 attached condominiums, or 120 single-story, single-standing condominiums. Well, the single-story condominiums are there now. They're nice. The people who live there are happy. But there's just something about me when I drive to and from home that I miss about the South Winds apartments not being there. And they were a place of community also. And that's in my short lifetime, my remembering them. I also know that over the course of my tenure on this council, and I just tried to make a few notes here, that this council has voted to preserve, at least to my knowledge, 8 monuments in my district of cultural significance. The Warner Grand Theater, I think, is the one that probably most of you know the most about. And there's 7 others that over the course of 7 years, this council stood up and said, these were important places for people. And as I started to get some of the information from Mr. Feuer, and he is to be commended on this issue, I also came to the conclusion that Chase Knowles was a special place and an important place for people, especially the people who live there. I can only hope that the garden apartments on 28th Street in my district continue to flourish. I can't bring back South Winds, but I can cast a vote today to preserve Chase Knowles.
Now, till we get there, Mr. Holden is next. They're the last thing between
They met with me and
between us and a vote.
they know what I'm thinking.
Oh, no, you're not. Sorry. Go
The
ahead.
fact of the matter is that I did meet with the committee, and I told them what I thought about garden apartments like this that was built right after the Second World War. It's like life, it comes and goes. And that's the reality of it. As much as we like to hang on, time marches on. And that's a fact. I reminded them of their garden apartments in Pasadena, Orange Grove, that I've come to know when I first came to Los Angeles, just south of Colorado on the east side of the street. In fact, they're going to demolish those places and build what you now know, some multiple housing units. And I went over to try to save them. In fact, I wanted to buy them and save them. Not they're going to give them to me and move them to a piece of land that I acquired a long time ago, and that's a historical site as well. I've had it so long. But the fact of the matter is that it could not properly fit on the property, and I could not get it for its maximum best use, so I said no. But I just want to tell you this, that I don't really personally see any significant value at all with the garden apartments there in Pasadena or anywhere else I've seen where you compare it with what the need's going to be, not just today, but for the future. Now, I can say what you'd like for me to hear, what you'd like to hear. In fact, I welcomed you into the office and told you what I thought. But let me tell you what the law says. You can have a victory today, and it's short-lived. The law is very clear on historical designations. You have 1 year to buy the property. Failure to do that, there's no reason, legal reason, to deny the demolition permit of the property owner. what's being offered to you today, which will not be offered to you necessarily 1 year from now, other than relocation assistance, is special consideration for long-term tenants, including seniors, which is not a requirement, but is a gift. So when you applaud and when you ask for the monument, which I'm going to vote for because it's in his district, he doesn't always reciprocate. But I'm going to tell you this. The fact of the matter, but understand what you're getting with this vote. You're getting 1 year permission to acquire. Village Green, for an example, unlike these garden apartments, they are condominiums. And I'm going to go over there and buy me one or two, Mark. But I must tell you, and my time is up and over.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's what you're going to be faced with. You may not get the same offer for relocation assistance for seniors 1 year from today as they're being offered today. Do you understand that? You willing to accept that? Then so be it.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Madam President, members of the council, I have the pleasure of representing the part of the city that includes the Village Green.
Stole it, didn't you? I used to.
Not quite, Madam President. It was
Close, though. Pretty close.
But if I had known better, I must admit I would have. It's worth such a pursuit. But having said that, I simply rise to say that there are few places in our city that have such charm, that are as unique as Village Green, and establish a sense of place and/or belonging. It seems to me that's well worth celebrating. And not only is it worth celebrating, it's also worth acknowledging that other places in our city can enjoy, should enjoy such status. And I'm pleased to support the Fuhr-Walters motion.
We're almost there. Mr. Fuhr.
I move the previous question.
All right, now we're there. Open the roll on item 21A, which is the designation. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Unanimous vote. Yes. Hold on, I have to do one more thing to wrap this up forthwith on that item. All right, we're done. We have one more item on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for your attention. And I do have to ask you to leave us enough quiet here so we can complete our agenda, because we're getting close. Mr. Clerk, I believe the last item is item number 12.
Item number 12, called special by Councilmember Wax.
Right. Let's get real here. Let's give them a chance to begin to go out. Ladies and gentlemen, as exciting as this is, we want to continue with item 12 here. Okay, Mr. Wax, you had called item 12 special.
Madam President, I got my questions answered, so I'm going to use my 3 minutes to allow the two people who wanted to speak to each speak a minute and a half, and then
All right,
they will
we
use
have,
my time.
just so everyone's clear on this, there was a hearing held in, I believe a fairly extensive hearing held in committee. 2 people have asked to be heard. Mr. Wax has basically turned over his 3 minutes to those 2 people. So unless there's an objection, I'm going to hear within that 3 minutes from Gary. If I put my glasses on, we'd know who it is. Forscht and Dick Simons. Mr. Forscht and Mr. Simons. Mr. Forscht, Mr. Simons, are you here? Step right up. Go ahead.
Madam President, honorable members of the council, thank you for letting me speak. I've been on the project area committee since inception. I've spent hundreds of hours trying to help the community. Unfortunately, it was thwarted by other agendas. I do believe that the councilman did the right thing in advocating termination of the PAC. I speak for the majority of the PAC members who voted to disband. I believe the council member has the best interests of the community at heart, and I urge you to vote yes on number 12.
Thank you. Just, now, who are you? Just so I have the right card.
I'm Gary Forsch from the member
Okay,
of the
got
PAC.
it. Yeah, I've got the right card then. Mr. Simons.
While I'm up here. Dick Simons, Project Area Committee, PAC member, also the chair of the Outreach Committee. It was obvious to see if you went to any of the PAC meetings that the people didn't want the project. I got one really good thing to say. Our councilman listened to the people, and I want to praise him for that. That was very fortunate for the people in the project area. That's about all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Wax, did you have anything further? All right, so the item is before, item 12 is before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Do you want that one forthwith as well? Forthwith on that. And I believe that clears, when we haven't cleared the desk. What have we
Motions
got
for
left?
posting and referral.
Without objection, those are approved.
Council members request to be excused from council. Councilmember Walters requests to be excused on Friday, August 4th. This meets policy for city business.
That meets policy?
Meets policy.
Meets policy, that's approved.
Councilmember Padilla requests to be excused on August 15th, 16th, 18th, and September 22nd. August 18th requires a motion from the council for city business.
Mr. Ridley Thomas moves. Without objection, those are approved.
Councilmember Galanter requests to be excused on July 25th for city business. This meets policy.
Well, I'm going to approve that as well.
The desk is clear.
All right, Ms. Goldberg, you have
Yes,
an
I'd
announcement?
like to move to reconsider the item from the last meeting regarding
All
the
right.
airport so that we can reaffirm our position one more time.
All right, so we have to open the roll first on reconsideration.
Didn't that go forthwith?
No, it did not.
No, we've never put it forth.
We've been very careful. All right, the motion before us is to reconsider. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
The item is reconsidered. Ms. Goldberg?
The Airport Commission is actually meeting, I believe, this evening, and plans to take the matter up that we have been concerned about, and I believe we will probably receive a different decision from them, but I don't know that for a fact. Whatever decision, though, will come tomorrow again, and we can
So in the
move to
meantime-
reconsider this. In the meantime, we need to reaffirm the permits for all of the
operating permits.
operating permits for all of the no, just for terminal.
No, I believe it's for all the terminals at LAX.
And to hold it on the desk and not send it
All right.
forthwith.
Is there any further discussion? Open the roll on that reaffirmation of the operating permits. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is done.
Do not send it.
I didn't send it. Mr.
Madam
Holden, sir.
Madam President, two things. The IGR committee scheduled to meet at 1. We'll be meeting next week instead. That meeting today is canceled. We'll be
All
meeting
right.
next
Thank
Tuesday.
you.
And I move the forthwith on the previous item.
Yeah. We'll deal with you outside. Yes, Ms.
Just an
Mizikowski.
announcement, the Planning and Land Use Management Committee will meet at 1:30.
All right. And anybody else? Do we have any? Is that it?
Here you go.
Conrad, do we have any? That's
The
it?
desk is clear.
Do we have any adjourning motions?
I have two.
All right. Will everybody please rise for adjourning motions?
Lisa?
Ms.
Yes,
Goldberg.
it is with great sadness that I ask that we adjourn in memory of Jessica Langer, who passed away on Thursday, June the 15th. She had been seriously ill and hospitalized for the past several months. She leaves behind her husband, Rob Langer, and their children, Josh and Brianna. And they've been very involved. The family's been very involved in Hollywood for a long period of time with significant property, and we will note her passing with great sadness. The other one I would like to ask is that also with great sadness that we adjourn in memory of Max Griego, who was 62 years old at the time of his recent demise. He was a lifetime civil servant at both the state and federal levels. He was in the Air Force and was a Korean War veteran. He was a role model for his younger siblings as well as for his own children after he was married. He leaves his wife Rita, 3 sons and a daughter. 4 sisters, including Linda Griego, whom many of you know, and his 91-year-old mother. And he was evidently, I didn't get the pleasure to meet him, but I've heard from his family members of what a really magnificent man he was, and he will be sorely missed.
All members.
All members on that, I think. Mr. Hernandez, were you? Linda. All right, Mr. Holden.
Madam President and members, maybe we've done this already, but Walter Matthau, did we adjourn in his memory?
No, I don't think we did.
Walter
I think we all
Matthau, of
want to
course,
be
is
on
a
that.
great actor, was performed so well for us all, entertained people around the world for so many years. And of course, I know his son, Charlie Matthau, Charles, so we ask that we adjourn in his memory.
Yes, all members on that. Anybody over here? All right, call the roll. We are adjourned. 1:16, not bad.
So you